Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where a wild Karen destroys OP's rental property. Would I be the jerk for posting the damage my renter did to my property on Facebook? I, 37 female, rented out one of my houses to a single mother. I was kind and let her slide on not paying late fees, or we would work out arrangements if she couldn't pay. Sadly, I had to finally give her a notice to vacate because of her allowing others to live there, the amount of animals and annoyances her kids were causing. Well, I inspected the house, and she has removed cabinets and took them with her. Holes in so many places, including the ceiling. Parts of the walls are missing. I'm just sick. She kept it all up until she had to move out. I have pictures of before and for sure after. I'm also making a police report because the damages are well over $3,500. But would it be wrong to make a Facebook post calling her out since she's ignoring my messages and calls? I'd let everything be done and over with if she would just return my cabinets. One was built into the house. The work to remove it wasn't easy. So, would I be the jerk? Update. Police report made. I'll pick up my copy tomorrow. I'll be having someone come out and give me estimates on fixing everything. I've decided that renting just isn't for me, so I'm going to surprise my 3 kids with the properties. Each one, even as young adults, have done the rent struggle for a while now, and they're wanting to settle down. So they each get a house. Lucky, as I had 3 rental houses, I inherited them. The town is alight with rumors because the sheriff's office is never at my properties, and rumor mill is insane. I've decided to not be petty and not post it to Facebook. You're the jerk if you do that. Being a landlord is risky, which is why you should require a security deposit, and you can sue for damages that aren't covered. Lesson learned, I guess. But keep your dirty laundry off Facebook for several reasons. If I saw a post like that, my first thought would be, what side of the story aren't I hearing? And would think that you're a petty, vindictive person who, instead of handling her business the right way, tries to shame people. Take her to court, bring your evidence. A judge will hear from both of you and make a ruling. That's how it's supposed to work, not brigading. Everyone sucks here. In my country, it's illegal to share negative information about someone in public, no matter if it's facts. I see why you'd want to do this, but just let the police solve this. Don't lower yourself to her level. You're the jerk. You're a landlord with multiple homes, and you seriously expect me to feel bad for you? I'd love to hear her side of the story here. Something tells me that you're the one being difficult and trying to use this tenant to pay for damages that are most likely not even her fault. I'd trust a difficult tenant any day of the week before I would trust some scummy landlord that owns half the block. Sorry, not sorry. Not the jerk. Fellow landlord here. These things just happen sometimes. It's all part of the experience. I wouldn't post it on Facebook. That sounds like a way to bring more drama into your life. I personally would just have the repairs done, leave her alone, and write it off on my taxes. People like her, it's usually not worth it to even attempt to go the legal route. Am I the jerk for asking my husband's best man to wear a tuxedo? I, 26 female, am getting married to Mark, who's 28. A handsome, responsible, intelligent man with a kind heart and a great sense of humor. My sister Jennifer, who's 23, is going to be his best man. Jennifer is best friends with my husband Mark. He's known her for more than twice as long as he's known me. We only really met and talked at any length about 3 years or so ago. They were co-workers together at her high school job, and she's been a part of his gaming group since then. They went to the same college, and they're co-workers again now, working for his friend John's company. Mark was in college for the better part of a decade, getting 2 undergrad degrees and his PhD, and Jennifer ended up doing the same major as him, likely due to his encouragement. She's thinking about her master's in the same field, but they both work full-time now. In addition to being coworkers and playing Dungeons & Dragons together, they also game online, and they hang out all the time. They've gone to conventions together, either as part of a group or just the 2 of them. They do local classes and events together, and Mark helps Jennifer with her photography and editing. While she has a solid full-time job that she likes, Jennifer still has aspirations of being a model and influencer. She loves fashion, and she's also into cosplay. After we got engaged, we were at a family dinner, and I was talking to Mark about the wedding party, and I mentioned that even though I have 2 sisters, I wanted my own best friend, Helen, who's 26, to be my maid of honor. Mark said that was great because he actually wanted to ask Jennifer to be his best man. Jennifer immediately and enthusiastically agreed. Being a female best man is just the kind of thing that she'd love. Obviously, even if that meant she wouldn't be one of my bridesmaids. She also knew that between our other sister and some of my friends, I had too many people who needed to be bridesmaids, and Mark was worried about being short on groomsmen. This was all fine and well until later on when we were talking about what people were going to wear. I picked out my dream wedding dress and I coordinated the bridesmaid dresses, and Mark was going to have his groomsmen, most of which were other gaming buddies, in tuxedos. I had to talk him out of putting them in cosplay and Renaissance fair stuff. However, Jennifer was going to wear a dress. Jennifer is very tall and very attractive. The dress that she wants to wear was designed by one of her friends online, and while it's not white or anything, it's mostly red and black, and pretty well matches the other groomsmen, and it's formal and fancy. It definitely shows off her figure though. She would also, as best woman, stand out from the other men on the groom's side, especially in the heels she wanted to wear with the dress. After dropping a few hints here and there and broaching the subject of each side of the wedding party matching and women's tuxedos, I gently requested that Mark have Jennifer wear a tuxedo rather than the dress and shoes she wanted and he had previously liked. When they gave me pushback, I pointed out to Jennifer that she might distract people with such a flashy dress. Jennifer gave me a dirty look and said, half under her breath, "Are you serious?" And before I could react, she just said, "Fine, whatever, you're the bride. I'll wear the dang tuxedo." Mark sighed and half said some things about it being ridiculous. But then when I asked him what he said, he just went, "Okay, it's whatever, it's fine." Since then, Mark and Jennifer have been passive-aggressively making fun of my concerns. They pretty much just do this when I'm around. They seem to think it's hilarious. They've made it very well known that Jen is really disappointed about not getting to wear the dress and that her seamstress friend is upset about it too, and Mark has seemed a bit distant and disinterested in wedding planning. I was looking over some tuxedos for women and making some suggestions to Jennifer about ones that aren't too tight in the chest or hips, and she just showed me the one that she had already picked and said, "Is this fine, or did you want to further micromanage my specific tuxedo?" We started to get into a fight, and she accused me of being a bridezilla. When I told her she was being a bad sister, she said that she was the one who was being shamed and told what to wear. I told her my requests weren't shaming, and she said that they were. My parents completely took Jennifer's side and said that I should just let her wear the dress. Obviously, she showed it to them too, and they thought it was beautiful. They like her friend too, and her friend has done clothing and costumes for her before. My father said that I should at least stop bothering her about the tuxedo if I'm going to make her wear one, and that I should just let her go with the one she picked. The one she wants though is very high visual impact and is also very tailored. She said she can match it to the colors, but I feel like she'd still stand out. When I tried to get Mark to weigh in on this, he just said, "It's your wedding, do whatever you want. I guess I'll tell her to do whatever you want." And I obviously don't feel like he's very invested. I feel like he's not on the same page, but he just doesn't want to argue. He's always been like that. Even though we both have good jobs, both Jennifer and I still live at home with our parents because housing is ridiculous, and it's been awkward around each other. I've been staying over at Mark's a lot the last year, and I was supposed to be officially moving in, but he's been kind of cool and passive about it recently. Everyone seems to be acting like I'm the jerk here, even though Mark and Jennifer are the ones being passive-aggressive and unreasonable. I almost feel like I should have just made Jennifer a bridesmaid right off the bat, or told Mark that it didn't make sense for him to have a female groomsman. Am I the jerk for wanting my husband's best man to just wear a normal tuxedo? Update: there's not going to be a wedding. John, of all people, who's Mark's boss and gaming buddy, noticed my post, as it got way more attention than I ever expected. We've only ever met a couple of times and hardly ever talked before, but he reached out to me with, "This is John. Call me." So I called him from the parking lot after work. John says he's been married for about 20 years, and he's tried to give Mark relationship advice. He doesn't think we're a good match. He told me that I should talk to Mark and that Mark has been very unhappy with our relationship and extremely unhappy with the wedding planning, even to the point that it's a running gag among him and his friends. I got into it a bit with John because, to be fair to me, Mark's ideas have been ridiculous. Just some of the things he asked for, and which John and Jennifer and his buddies thought would be cool. He wanted the wedding party to have custom swords and daggers and amulets. He wanted them to have the swords during the ceremony, and he thought people would like fantasy amulets. Mark has told me that John was willing to pay for the bridesmaids' dresses if we had them done by Jennifer's costume friend. I told him no, because I wanted normal, nice bridesmaids' dresses from someplace reputable, and that the bridesmaids could buy them themselves. John told me that he had offered this as a bit of a bet with Mark. Mark wanted to serve mead at the wedding. He said that his friend, John, could provide it, and that he made homemade mead in his basement and had tons of it. I obviously said no, because why would I want mead at my wedding? Never mind some guy's basement mead. John got a laugh out of this at the time because he's a nerd who likes to laugh at his own jokes. Apparently, he's very proud of his basement mead, and they like to make toasts with it. Basement mead has apparently become a running gag in their games, as John insisted on telling me. Frankly, John seemed kind of tickled with himself just because he was speaking with me. Mark wanted the band at the wedding to play classical covers of video game and superhero music. Mark wanted the reception to have a jester who would wander around doing magic tricks and asking people riddles. Some lady that Mark and his friends know asked if she could be an elf at our wedding and wear her forest gown, and Mark said he'd ask me, and he described it as some kind of green Greek toga dress with leaves and elven writing on it, and that she'd have elf ears. It's a wedding, not a costume party, so I don't even know why he would ask that. I mentioned this stuff to John, and he recognized all of it, and more on top of that, because Mark would always vent to them about the wedding plans, and John just agreed along, saying that I was constantly shooting down all of Mark's ideas. The point is that all of Mark's ideas were completely ridiculous, and that I wanted to have a wedding, not a Halloween party. John laughed when I brought this up to him and said that these ideas were awesome, and that I was just being too boring. John said that he thought we weren't a good match, and that he's told Mark that he needs to talk to me. I asked him if he thought Mark and Jennifer were a good match, and he just said yes. I asked if there had ever been anything between them, and he said no. He said he's 100% certain that they've never hooked up because Mark doesn't have the poker face for it, especially with as much as him and the other group members rib them over it. He said that Mark is too oblivious for his own good, and that the week after her 18th birthday, Jennifer said, pretty much straight to Mark, "We can hook up now," and Mark just laughed it off as a joke. It does sound like something she'd say because Jennifer does love making jokes like this. John thought that there was more to it though. They've had their characters date each other in games. Once at an event, Jennifer was supposed to kiss Mark, but instead she kissed the palm of her hand and then had him kiss her palm. John is fully confident that neither of them would cheat. I went over to Mark's house because he hadn't called or texted in a while, and he basically confirmed everything that John said. Mark said that I stressed him out when I was over, and he wasn't sure about me moving in because thinking about it gave him anxiety. He didn't like any of my ideas for our house. It was his childhood home, and he's resistant to changing anything. He just has his stuff everywhere and wherever. He kept trying to talk about giving me a room or some space when it's supposed to be our home, where all of the space belongs to both of us. He was extremely frustrated about the wedding planning, and he felt like he didn't have a say. He said the dress Jennifer wanted to wear was just about the final straw because I told him he could pick the outfits for the groomsmen, and I told him Jen could be in a dress as long as it matched. She really loves the dress, and she got it from her friend. She and John, and apparently all of his buddies, warned him that I'd find some way to have a problem with it. He says that I talk him in circles whenever he tries to choose or change anything, even though all of his suggestions are ridiculous. And he said he had just about given up caring by the time I complained about the dress, so he didn't bother fighting me about it. He said it upset him the way that I was shaming Jennifer. He thought I was being jealous and controlling, and that I had been a bridezilla ever since he proposed. When I asked him why he even proposed, if I apparently gave him anxiety and he doesn't even want me to move in with him, he said he felt like he was pressured to either propose or break up, and he hoped things would get better and that he didn't know if he had any good enough reason to break up with me. When I told him that I never pressured him to propose, he said that all of my friends and family know that I consider it a goal to get married before I'm 30, and he brought up a document on his phone where he had taken notes about what kind of proposal I wanted from all the times that I've talked about it. He said that he started the document because of how obviously important it was to me to have a perfect proposal and how often I talked about what I wanted. He proposed because he felt like he had to either marry me or dump me. I asked him if anything had happened between him and Jennifer, and he said no, and I believe him. I asked him why he wasn't dating Jennifer, and he said that at first he was seeing someone else, and then he was dating me. And he said that he values his friendship with her more than anything. He said that his friendship with Jennifer was worth not getting to be with her that way, and that she's too attractive to want to be with him. Apparently, the only reason Mark even started dating me is because he tried flirting with me at a family party we were at, and he said that I seemed into him. He doesn't think of himself as handsome, but he is, and he's got his PhD, a great job, and his own house at 28. He's definitely a catch. He didn't agree, and he said he's only ever dated his high school prom date, a girl who was kind of his girlfriend until she graduated and left, and me. Mark apologized and said that he wanted to put on hold any more wedding or moving plans, and that he wasn't sure about the relationship. I had already started crying, but then I broke down and he apologized again. He said he was sorry for messing up my plans, and that he kept hoping things would get better. I left as soon as I felt like I could drive. By the time I got home, Mark had already texted Jen, "Your sister's crying, sorry," and the two of them had been on the phone the whole time. And of course, my mom knew, and she tried to comfort me, but I could just tell that she wanted to say, "I told you so," because she had been warning me that I was going to drive Mark away, and she thought he was better with Jennifer too. Jennifer said that she tried really hard to have this work out because she just wants Mark to be happy, and that she had tried inviting me to gaming. And for Christmas before last, she brought me a Switch with games that Mark likes, and she was sorry that stuff happened this way. She accused me of not really liking or caring about Mark and just wanting a generic husband. When I told her that wasn't fair, she mentioned the same stuff from the wedding planning and a bunch of other stuff from our relationship that she said made Mark feel ignored or suffocated. She said that the only reason I liked him was because he ticked boxes and always gave in and let me have my way. We started arguing, but our mom stepped in before we could get into it too bad. I asked Jennifer about what this meant for her and Mark, and she said that he is absolutely her best friend and nothing is ever going to change that, and that she loves him. When I asked how she loves him, she just said that's not a discussion she wants to have right now. Our mom said everyone needed to cool off, and that was enough for Jen to step away and drop the subject. One of the commenters on my original post asked why I was marrying my sister's boyfriend, and my mom asked very nearly the same thing. She questioned how I had started dating Mark just about as soon as his age gap with Jennifer stopped being awkward, and she implied I shouldn't have been dating him in the first place. That's not fair at all. It's not like he's our property, and Jennifer can clearly just go get whatever man she wants. It's not like she had any kind of claim on him. Even while she was trying to comfort me and saying that things would be alright, my mom wouldn't stop implying that I was wrong for going after Mark in the first place or criticizing me for how the relationship went. She said that Mark wasn't the man for me, and I could tell that she meant he belonged with someone like Jennifer, as if I'm not good enough or what I want doesn't matter. And then I caught her talking to Jen about how things should be fine and how she should try to not be mad at me, as if I was the one who was in the wrong. Jennifer just kind of went on like normal and went ahead and went to go game with Mark and her friends the next day. I know they've been chatting online like normal. I gave Jennifer Mark's ring to give back to him, and then I had a missed call from him while I was in the shower and a text that said, "Okay, I guess we're broken up then. I'm sorry." I don't know if I messed this up or if everyone else were the jerks here. I feel like I'm definitely not going to be married by the time I'm 30. Am I the jerk for not letting my boyfriend drive my dad's Ferrari? My dad is wealthy. Not like mega rich billionaire wealthy, but pretty darn wealthy. My dad owns this Ferrari V12 supercar that he loves. He takes it out to drive a few times a month when he can, and usually he likes to take it to a local track. He's very protective of that car and doesn't want anyone driving it. He let me drive it once at his track, and I had like a race car driver instructor with me, but honestly, I'm kind of afraid of it. It's really powerful and just more car than I can handle. Anyways, I'm dating this dude and he saw my dad's car when he was over and he asked me if he could drive it. I told him he would have to ask my dad because it's not mine, but that I don't think he would let him because my dad doesn't really want anyone driving it. Anyways, he left it alone. He brought it up to my dad later, but my dad said no. My dad said he let me drive it once at a track with a race driver in the passenger seat and that he just doesn't trust anyone else to drive it. So my dad went out of town, and now my boyfriend is asking me to let him drive the car while my dad is gone. He keeps asking me where the keys are, and can he just please take it for a spin? And I keep telling him no, and it's making me uncomfortable that he keeps asking. Finally, he got mad at me and started calling me names, and said I should be supportive of him, that I should understand he doesn't have a rich family and will probably never have this opportunity again, and that if I loved him, I would do this for him. I don't know. I get that he doesn't really have another opportunity to drive this car, but like, it's just a car, and my dad would be really upset if I let him. Am I the jerk? I believe I might be the jerk because my boyfriend can't afford a car like this on his own, and I feel bad that I'm denying him the opportunity to drive one, which is something he really wants, and I'm denying him his dream. Not the jerk. Do not let him drive that car. It's not worth violating your dad's trust over some dude, and let me assure you, he is just some dude. I grew up poor, and on behalf of all poor people, he does not have a right to someone else's possessions. Imagine if you gave him the keys and something goes wrong. Imagine how your father would look at you as a person. Is this clearly selfish dude worth the relationship with your dad? Don't let this idiot gaslight you. Break up with him. OP. He keeps telling me that if I love him, I'll let him drive it. Edit. A lot of people are calling this a red flag, and honestly, I never really thought it was that bad. I just thought that guys like him always want to drive fast cars. Like it really didn't register to me that he was being manipulative. Edit 2. I did take the keys and put them in my dad's safe about 30 minutes after this post went up. A lot of people have mentioned he doesn't see a long-term relationship with me because he said, "This is the only chance I'll get." I honestly didn't register that, but yeah, it's got me thinking. Good news and bad news. Good news, I heard your message loud and clear, and today he really showed me who he is. Bad news, I have more crap to deal with from him. We are over after this. Update 5 months later. Okay, so it seemed a lot of people had things to say about the original thread, so I figured you all would want a conclusion. Some background on our relationship. First off, I paid for everything all the time. Anytime we went out on a date, I footed the bill. I didn't think much of it because I have so much, and he doesn't, so I thought it was pretty natural and just being a good girlfriend to pay the bill. I drove him around everywhere. If he wanted something, he would often guilt me into buying it for him. Sometimes this was things like $200 Jordans. I got him a new Samsung Galaxy phone for Christmas. He never got me anything, not once. Not even a handmade gift or a small thoughtful gift. Not even a flower that he picked. It didn't need to be elaborate or expensive, but he didn't even get me something to show me he was thinking of me. I don't want to try and measure a relationship based off material things, so I let that go. He would often tease me and make fun of me for being such a spoiled rich daddy's girl and for going to an expensive, exclusive private school. He made fun of me because my dad bought me a Mercedes, but he never had a problem with me driving him around in it. He would make fun of me for taking school seriously, for maintaining a 4.0, for turning down parties or other things because I had papers to write or tests to study for. He would often tell me I didn't know what the real world was like because I grew up in a wealthy neighborhood around wealthy people and I didn't know what the world was really like. I honestly kind of felt like he was right about that. I did grow up a lot more sheltered than average people and with a lot more. Most people don't get Mercedes for their 16th birthdays or ski trips to the Alps or summer trips to St. Bart's. I know that's not normal. I honestly don't really know what normal is. So I took his word that I had a sheltered life and he knew better about the real world. He introduced me to his friends as his hot rich girlfriend, which I assumed was supposed to be a compliment. He never said these things in a way that seemed overtly insulting. He always said it as a joke with a smile. So I trusted that he cared about me and that this was all just differences in our upbringing. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was probably naive. The night of my first post, I got a text from my ex about throwing a party at my house while my dad was gone. I said no. I've been to high school parties and I know what happens, and I don't want my house to be trashed. So I tell him this, and he gave me a line that he often used about me needing to have more fun. I told him I didn't think cleaning up my dad's wrecked house sounded like a lot of fun. He left it alone, or so I thought. I had been talking to some people on Reddit chat about putting together a plan to break up with him, but this next part forced my hand. The next day I was in school, and one of my best friends came up to me, and she was sorta mad and wanted to know why I didn't tell her about the party. I was surprised. I told her there was no party, and I wanted to know where she heard that from, but I knew where it ultimately came from. She told me that she had heard from her friend that went to my ex's school, and that everyone there was talking about it, and it had spread to this school. I knew it was him, so I called him. He admitted that he had told everyone I was having a huge party, and he even started telling everyone this when he was at school the previous day, before he'd even asked me about it. I was livid. I told him he had no right to just invite the entire school to my house without even asking me first. We got into a big fight about it. Then he told me what he really thought of me. Not gonna lie, I was really devastated to hear this. He called me boring and basic, spoiled and entitled, and now he wasn't joking. He said I had a chip on my shoulder and needed to learn how to lighten up and have fun. He said I was a daddy's girl and cared more about grades and impressing my father than anything. He accused me of being Olivia Jade and having my dad buy my way into college. That one really stung because I worked really hard through high school to get accepted into a good university. And it was also just like, what? Because here he is making fun of me for working too hard in school and at the same time saying I didn't earn my spot. So which one is it? Anyways, we fought and he said a bunch of mean things. Finally, I told him if I was so boring, he could find a new and exciting girlfriend to drive him around and pay for everything because I was done. I wish it ended there, but I still had this party rumor that was now flying around at least 2 schools. I didn't want to call my dad about this. I wanted to take care of this on my own, take care of him on my own. I didn't want to admit to my dad that I made a really poor choice in dating him. I didn't want to have my dad bail me out. I wanted to show I was mature and grown up enough to fix this on my own, but I just didn't know how to stop all these people from showing up. So I swallowed my pride and called my dad after school and I told him everything. I tried not to cry, but I did. My dad was mad, but he wasn't mad at me. He did thank me for telling him and reassured me that I had done the right thing. My dad made a call to a friend of his at the sheriff's office. This part I feel some kind of way about because I know how people feel about the police right now, and I know that this is something that really shows off my privilege. I doubt this would have happened for many other people, but the sheriffs told him they'd post a deputy on our block over the weekend. My dad also sent a pair of bodyguards for me for the weekend to make sure no one tried to break in. He said I was allowed to have a few friends over this weekend, but keep it clean, no parties of course, and no mess. You know, standard parent stuff. That week, a few of my close friends stayed with me after school while I cried about all of this, and they helped me spread the word that there was no party. Friday came along, and a few of my friends came back home with me after school. We decided we'd do an 80s movie night like I mentioned before. We closed the gate, put up a sign that said there was no party. Private security showed up like my dad said, and we bunkered down for the night and watched a bunch of 80s movies. There were a few people that did show up, but they were chased off by the locked gate and the deputy hanging out on the block. I think we were able to dissuade most of them from showing up. I don't know how many because I just stayed inside with my girls watching movies and tried to ignore anything happening outside. Karen's supervisor harasses me. I get her fired. I work for a contractor doing custodial work for a casino. To preface this, I took this job mainly because it did not involve management in any way. I have worked in management most of my career and was just burnt out. When I started this job, I was made aware by the recruiter/assistant, who I will call Amy, she's lovely, that a lot of the people that worked at the site only spoke Spanish, and that there may be some difficulties with communication from time to time. This wasn't a problem for me, as Amy spoke English and was currently managing the contract because the actual contract manager was on medical leave due to having a surgery. I am the kind of person that works very hard, mainly because I take pride in my work ethic. As soon as I started, I downloaded Duolingo, an app that is used to teach foreign languages, and began to learn as much Spanish as I could so I could better communicate with my coworkers. I'm still learning, but know enough to understand my coworkers most of the time. Most of my coworkers are lazy. They're oftentimes on their phones while on the casino floor, huddled in groups, or hiding in their locker rooms to avoid doing work. I, on the other hand, have regularly gotten compliments from the company we are in a contract with about my work ethic, so much so that the president himself has sent emails to my company to show his gratitude for my hard work, as well as giving me some free merchandise with the company's logo. Here's where the story gets more interesting. We are ridiculously short-staffed. On a regular shift, we're supposed to have 10 custodians working, cleaning the machines, the bathrooms, keeping trash off of the casino floors, taking out trash, mopping the bar and restaurant, restocking all the supplies, etc. Oftentimes, we will have 5 people on a shift or less, and with my coworkers being fairly lazy, that means a lot of stuff doesn't get done. I'm regularly doing most of the shift's workload by myself, as well as picking up the slack for the other shifts because they are too extremely short-staffed. The actual contract manager finally comes back from medical leave about 3 months into me working there. We will call her Sally. At first, me and Sally got along great. She thanks me for my work ethic and for everything I've been doing. All of that changes when I asked for 3 days off. We had been working mandatory overtime, and up until then, I was there for nearly 60 hours every week because we were short-staffed. Initially, Sally agrees to my time off request. I filled out the paperwork and made copies for myself just in case, managerial background. A week before the days I requested came up, and she puts out the schedule, and my time off wasn't applied. I approach Sally and ask her why, and she says that someone else put in for time off. This other person is the laziest of all of my coworkers and regularly acts as a supervisor because she's worked there the longest and is the only person that can understand a little bit of English. I tell Sally that I think this is extremely unfair considering that I put in my time off request over 2 months ago and had made sure that no one else had asked for the same days off beforehand. Sally explains that she doesn't have any paperwork to prove that, so I give her my copy, which I had placed in my work bag. This is when Sally decides to show her true colors. Do you want to do my job? Do you think you can manage this case better than I do? No? I don't pay you to come in here and argue with me. You aren't a manager. You aren't a supervisor. You are a janitor. That's it. That's all I pay you for. I keep what Sally said in mind and just keep my head down at work for a few months after this. At this point of my employment, Sally is getting in trouble by the higher-ups for the lack of employees and retention that is occurring at our site, as well as the company we work for not satisfied with her performance managing everyone. It's not really a secret as we have a regional and district management coming in frequently to try and help get people hired and play peacekeepers between Sally and the casino CEO. Finally, we are getting new people hired on thanks to a temp agency that was contracted in to help. A lot of the new hires only speak English, the others only speak Spanish. Other than the lazy coworker who is now on vacation, 3 weeks, the only person that can speak/understand both English and Spanish is me. The morning the new hires arrive, everyone is gathered in the office, including Sally's boss. They go through orientation, only speaking English, for the new hires and begin to give everyone their assignments. This is when Allie comes up to me. "J. Sacred Art, I need you to train the new hires today and make sure everyone else is doing what they're supposed to be doing." Me. "Does this mean that I'm being made a supervisor?" Sally, who apparently forgot our previous conversation. "No, but you're the only one that can speak English and Spanish, and so I need you to make sure everyone's doing what they're scheduled to do." Me, with a blank expression. "I'm sorry, Sally, but I can't do that. I'm not a manager, I'm not a supervisor, and I'm not a translator. I'm a janitor. That's all you pay me for, remember?" Sally at this point is trembling with rage and starts screaming at me about doing what I'm told to do and dropping my attitude, etc. I looked her dead in the eye with her supervisor, whom she forgot was behind her, and pulled my resignation form out of my bag and handed it to her and walked out, knowing full well that now they were going to have a lot more issues because their best worker quit and there was no one that could effectively communicate between the workers and the company we were contracted with. Skip forward to the next week and I get a phone call from Mr. Regional Manager. "Hello, J. Sacred Art. This is Mr. So-and-so. I wanted to formally apologize for the behavior of our former employee, Miss Sally. She's been relieved of her position and we would like you to come back and work with us in a supervisory position. I am now a supervisor and they are paying for me to take Spanish lessons, which once I complete, I am supposed to get a significant raise." Have you ever had a boss that was a total Karen to you? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. "I saw a real-life Karen at the grocery store today. First, she almost hit the old lady who was trying to get out of her parking spot. Then she tried to go in without a mask. Reddit boy and I couldn't stop laughing at her." Entitled kid next door uses binoculars to peer into my window. Backstory. Neighbors have 3 boys, all of whom are under the age of 7. In my first encounter with the mom, she promptly tells me, not asks, that her kids wonder. I naively thought that meant there might be the odd rogue ball episode or something, so don't protest at the time. Our yards are unfenced and we share a driveway. Oh boy, was I wrong. My yard, back deck, front garden, and even the inside of my house were seen as an extension of their space. The boys would even have sword fight tournaments on my back deck, off my kitchen. The parents would literally do nothing. I was put in a position many times to ask for more privacy as it was affecting my work and a general sense of well-being, as I am a very private person. It took some push, but finally things got a bit better. But they still wonder. However, to a level I am not willing to cause drama over. This past early winter, I decided to put in security cameras. I live alone in a not-so-great area and I wanted some peace of mind. I also wanted to document encroachments in case it got bad again. In that time, the cameras have picked up a lot of encroachment from kids, but I did not raise the issue because the relationship with parents is peaceful and I wanted to keep it that way. Fast forward to yesterday, my camera picks up a clip of the middle kid peering into my window with a pair of binoculars. I send the clip to the parents, explaining one of my cameras picked it up and that I'm not comfortable with this behavior. It's inappropriate and an invasion of my privacy. They send a note back saying he was only trying to see if I was home so he could say hello. Then they insisted on knowing more about my security cameras, what they can see, and if they pick up when they're playing in their yard. I explained that they don't, as they only pick up motion in my yard. But if the kids are in my yard, which they are, a lot, they are recorded. The parents are insisting that I take the cameras down. The lesson is, entitled parents raise entitled kids. I am frightened to see what kind of adults these kids will turn into. Who knows if I will be here long enough to find out. Edit. Thanks for your responses thus far. I should have mentioned the fence and backstory. How I would love a fence and will someday, I live in an area that wood is twice the price and tradespeople are taking bribes for bookings. It's not really possible right now, but someday. They are not only entitled, but also deadbeats, so I'd be paying for it on my own. I did the one thing I had control of, and that's installing cameras. Well, what would you do in this situation if your neighbor's kids kept coming into your yard? Please let us know.
I'd get the biggest, meanest dog I could find and train him to eat them. Sometimes people need to learn the hard way.
Exactly 1 pound, you say? Sure. I'm a part-time home baker. I took it up while I'm studying from home during the lockdown, and it's basically a fundraiser for my charity since I can't do my monthly fundraiser bake sales on campus anymore. I'm also the only person selling baked goods in my entire area, so my items are very popular. Specifically, this one particular type of cake I make that people absolutely love. The other day, a lady called me and wanted to place an order for 1 pound of this particular cake. She said she had tried it at a friend's house and loved it and wanted it for her niece's birthday. I told her that I use the metric measurements, so my cakes are actually 500 grams or 1 kilogram. 1 pound equals 454 grams. She said she wanted a 1 pound cake. I dropped it because it was more or less the same thing. Important for later. When I had made the cake for her friend, I had run out of my 1 pound cake bases, so I used the 2 pound cake base. In my opinion, this made the cake look smaller, but it's possible that someone else might think that the cake was bigger. Edit. To clear up some confusion, cake base is the cardboard on top of which you put the cake. I use 2 sizes, 9-inch diameter base for my small cakes, 500 grams, and 12-inch diameter base for my big cakes, 1 kilogram. When the lady's friend ordered, I had run out of the smaller bases, so I used the 12-inch base for the 500 grams cake. After I took the order and quoted the price for her, she started giving me more instructions. The birthday girl is 16, so decorated according to a 16-year-old. I know, super vague, right? Add XYZ stuff to it. Write 4 different things on the cake. I explained to her that all this is not included in the base price, and the kind of toppings she wanted would make it a lot heavier and pricier. She said, make it a 1 pound cake for the 1 pound cake price. Okay, I get the hint. You want a 1 pound cake with those specific customizations, so I made it just that. Removed some of the ganache, made thinner layers so I could incorporate her additions and still keep it at exactly 454 grams. No more, no less. The lady came to pick it up and she went ballistic because I was trying to rob her in the name of charity, and the cake I made was in no way 1 pound because her friend's cake was bigger. I tried explaining to her why her friend's cake might have looked bigger and that this cake was exactly 1 pound as she wanted. She refused to listen and was starting to create a huge scene, said she wanted a refund. So I brought my weighing scale out and weighed the cake out in front of her. 454 grams exactly. This lady saw and went, "Aha! I was right. You are trying to cheat me. It's 50 grams less." I said, "No, it's exactly 1 pound like you wanted." I opened up Google Converter and showed her that 1 pound is in fact 454 grams, not 500. I opened WhatsApp and showed her the message where I told her I make 500 gram standard cakes, and she said she doesn't care. She wants 1 pound. She was a bit gobsmacked and said I should have had some professional courtesy and made it 500 grams and I'm trying to cheat her. I had it with her. I told her, "Ma'am, you wanted exactly a 1 pound cake. You said it to me 4 times. So you can take this exactly 1 pound cake, or you can take your refund and leave. I can find other people who would want to buy a 1 pound cake." She took her 1 pound cake and left, saying she will never buy anything from me again and make sure to let others know too. Later, her niece followed my page on Instagram and dropped me a message apologizing for her aunt, said it was the best cake she ever had and she will surely tell everyone about my bakery. Edit. I don't see exactly where the weight confusion is coming from, but basically I have 2 standard sizes for my cakes, which are 500 grams and 1 kilogram, because we use the metric system. Because of the American influence though, people have become used to cakes being either 1 pound or 2 pounds in weight, but don't often know the difference between the two. They just assume that 1 pound equals half a cake and 2 pounds equals 1 kilogram. Edit 2. TIL, America doesn't sell cakes by weight. It's the standard practice over here that the rates are fixed by weight. Also, the cake in question here was not a traditional cake, so there was no way she wanted a pound cake. Actual final edit. The amount of positive feedback I've received through this post is crazy. I've had a very difficult few days, and some of you were so nice to me. A complete stranger on the internet, and it made me a little emotional. If I received this much attention on my Instagram, I could probably become a full-fledged food blogger. One thing I want to address, because so many people started messaging me about it, I use GMs for grams because it was drilled into us in school to not use G, but GMS. G was apparently the symbol for something else. I don't even remember what, but we've had marks deducted from exams for not using GMS, so I stick with that. Speaking of cake, what's your favorite kind of cake of all time? Please let us know right now.
Tres leche all day, bruh. If you've never tried one, you don't know the meaning of life.
Am I the jerk for telling manager, it's not my problem, nobody can do my job? So some background is needed here. I'm 19, male, and have worked at the leisure center in my town since I was 16. It has a gym, a pool, a function room / hall, and a cafe. Up until recently, my job was cleaning the gym and hall, and working in / cleaning the cafe. But obviously, it's been closed for a while, and I've been on furlough. Thing is, my parents' house is very toxic, and it reached a point where I had to get out, which I couldn't afford to do on furlough alone. I took on 2 new cleaning jobs to cover my living expenses. The leisure center opened again last week, all apart from the cafe part, and I realized just how much I'd be juggling now between work and uni. Since the 2 new jobs pay significantly better than this one, but I can use all the extra hours I can squeeze in, I elected to stop working in the cafe when it reopens because I think those hours will tip it over into the too many territory. I told this to one of the 2 cafe managers and she said that's fine. So the issue. This morning, the other cafe manager messaged me about reopening and stuff and asking if I'm okay to work the same hours I was before. I replied saying, "Sorry, I think there's been some miscommunication. I told other manager I won't be working the cafe anymore as I've got 2 other jobs now and it's just too many hours." She was not happy. She began complaining to me that the cafe is short-staffed as is and they don't have another cleaner on hand to do it. At one point in my life, I'd have folded and said I'd do it, but I'm trying to be better about advocating for myself. So I said, "I'm sorry about the inconvenience, but I had my notice okayed and sorting a replacement isn't my problem." She then got upset and called me rude and insolent and said she's going to report me to the overall GM of the place for my conduct. I'm really beginning to panic that I'm going to get into big trouble for this, and if I could have handled this better. Am I the jerk for what I said? Edit. A timeline of my work, cause some people seem confused. 2018. I start working at the leisure center at 16. My jobs are cleaning the gym area and the hall / function room if it gets used. I later start working in the cafe when somebody leaves, waiting tables, manning the counter, and cleaning up. March 2020. Lockdown 1 happens and the leisure center closes indefinitely and I get put on furlough. July of 2020. Lockdown 1 ends. I go back to work and briefly furloughed again for the circuit breaker lockdown in October. Or was it November? ADHD brain, I'm bad with time. But go back to work again. January 2021. 3rd lockdown. I'm back on furlough. February 2021. The already toxic situation at my mom and dad's house becomes unlivable and I have to move out. However, my furlough pay and SFE payments combined aren't really viable to live independently on, and I don't qualify for universal credit as I'm a student. I apply at an agency and get 2 cleaning jobs through them, one at a GP surgery and one at some offices. It's significantly better pay and a better contract and allows me to move out and keep myself. April 2021. The leisure center opens, Sans Cafe reopens, and I go back to cleaning the gym and hall as well as my new jobs. I realize between juggling the gym hours and the agency jobs and uni work, I'm basically at my limit for how much I can do. I decide that when the cafe does reopen, I won't be able to manage those hours too, and the situation in my post ensues. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the manager? Please let us know.
Definitely the manager. I'm proud of OP for sticking up for themselves. I hope you report that manager. They have no business trying to bully you like that.
Entitled father wants me to pay his debts after cutting me off 5 years ago. Some context here. 5 years ago, when I was in my last year of university, my parents divorced, and for many reasons, I decided to side with my mother and live with her. He was not happy about that, so he decided to ask for half of the worth of our home, even though my mother bought it completely on her own. To not lose our home, I got 3 part-time jobs in the spare time while I was studying, and we could finally pay him his share, and he left after destroying many things in our home. Yes, he stayed 1 year while the divorce was in process. He just quit talking to me one day, got a new partner, and just left, telling me that his stepsons were the kids he always wanted instead of a geeky nerd. 'Cause yes, I'm an IT engineer. He didn't stop there, as he also talked to all of his family, my grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles, who also cut me off without even knowing my side of the story. Once I graduated with the best score in my faculty, I got a scholarship for an MBA in Italy, which only covered the basics plus the tuition, so my mother helped me a lot since I couldn't work with my visa. 3 years ago, I came back to my country, and suddenly I got a great position in an international IT company, at the point in which I bought a car, a new apartment for us, and we have had a great life in general. Suddenly, he started to send me friend requests through Facebook, which I ignored and blocked his account. Yet, he managed to get my phone number after I changed it, and he started calling me, telling me he and his wife are starving, and his stepsons couldn't find a job. Basically telling me I have to give him money, and that he spent all of the share of the house we gave him, which was worth more than $50K, paying the university of his stepsons and his wife's lifestyle. I just told him I'm sorry, but I won't do that. Now he has started going to the reception of my apartment, telling me that I owe him this, and I have to be a better person, that he always loved me, and I was the one who turned my back at him. All of his family, not mine at this point, started calling me as well, telling me I owe him a great share of my income, and I have to give him that, or else they will sue me. That's BS. I again just told them to buzz off, that's none of their business. The worst part was that they came to my previous house, which my mother still owns, and broke every window, telling me that was just the beginning of it if I don't hand him the money he wants. I just went to the police and got a restraining order. Yet, some of my friends told me that I should forgive him and try to help him out as he's still my father. I'm 26, male, yet I cried all night remembering how he just forgot me, all of his words, and now I honestly don't know what to do, as I could help him out without much effort. By this time, I'm feeling guilty of knowing he's possibly starving, yet he's got a new family, and now he wants me to pay for them too? I really don't know what to do here, but I think I can't forgive him right now. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you go ahead and give him the money or not? Please let us know.
I'd give him a visit from my friend Larry. Larry's from New York and carries a big baseball bat with him.
Am I the jerk for defending my boyfriend after he was accused of staring at my friend? I don't know how to explain this, but I will try. I have a friend from school who I ran into recently after several years. Let's call her B. We aren't very close, but for the sake of meeting each other after so many years, we decided to get lunch on Saturday, and she also asked about my boyfriend, who I've been with since middle school, so I decided to bring him. So we went to this hip rooftop restaurant to get lunch and caught up with each other. My boyfriend doesn't like her much, so wasn't very talkative, and he was just there because I asked him to. After lunch, we got into the elevator as the restaurant was on the 15th floor. It was the three of us and another group of 3 girls. The elevator stopped at the 8th floor due to technical faults, and everyone was panicking, but we later calmed down as we knew help was on the way, or at least the elevator would start sometime soon. It was getting hot in there, so B removed her jacket, which was part of her outfit, so she didn't remove it earlier at lunch. Underneath, she was wearing a crop top. When she removed the jacket, naturally, everyone in the elevator turned to her, but then looked away immediately. But she loudly smirked and said, tell your boyfriend to stop staring," and started giggling. I was standing right next to my boyfriend, so I would definitely know if he looked, but he didn't. He was on his phone. She removed the jacket and we all turned to her, but turned away immediately. My boyfriend defended himself and denied that he stared at her. He looked quite annoyed, and honestly, I was too. B didn't stop there. She went on saying,
"Oh, please, I saw the way you were looking at me. I understand that I was your high school crush, but you are with your girlfriend now."
I was furious at this point because they were blatant lies. My boyfriend and I were our first everything. First crush, first partner, first kiss. B and my boyfriend used to be in the same class, and B had told me how he would always be looking at her, but all of my other friends who were in the same class confirmed she was just lying. B has this habit of assuming that she's the center of attention, and any man who turns in her direction is interested in her. Plus, in the 10+ years I've known and loved my boyfriend, he has never looked at another girl like that, so he definitely has my trust. If he says he wasn't looking, I'm backing him up. So I defended my boyfriend, and it went back and forth. Finally, she said,
"It's a shame. Girls should have each other's backs, but I understand you feeling insecure over me."
I lost it. I told her to stop being an attention-seeking jerk, and she started crying. The rest of the wait was silent. After we went home, I opened Facebook to see her rant over how I shamed her and how it's her fault. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know.
Uh-oh, sounds like we've got a Karen Jr. on our hands.
Karen demands to plan our wedding and throws a Facebook tantrum when I decline. So this happened yesterday, and I'm at a loss for words, to be honest. For those who have read my previous posts, you would know that I, 31 male, have proposed to my now fiancé, 29 female, back in 2018, and other than initial decisions on which venue, we haven't made a single step in further planning our wedding. With everything going on right now, we decided to hold off future wedding plans until the situation is 100% solved. Well, yesterday I was on a Zoom call with several of my cousins just chatting up on things and whatnot. At some point into the call, one of my cousin's wives barged into the conversation and pretty much took over it. She's not well liked at all in our family, so the call ended soon after she invited herself in. Anyways, about 30 minutes after the call had ended, cousin's wife called up my phone, and before I could even say hello, she just started interrogating me about my wedding. And when I said that we haven't planned anything yet, she began gushing about how we should hold it at the venue she held hers at, along with catering, DJ, and so forth, even going as far as to donate us her playlist. She said she'll get right to it and she'll handle everything for us. Now, if there was an award for the worst wedding ever, cousin's wife would be in their Hall of Fame. First, the venue was a dump, in the middle of nowhere, with no roads connecting to it from the highway. It was so bad, many of the guests weren't able to find it, so a lot of them were extremely late or ended up getting frustrated and traveled back home. Furthermore, the venue was not handicap friendly, so it wasn't fun for the more elderly and wheelchair-bound guests, including cousin's wife's own brother. Also, the venue had no restrooms available, and the only ones that were available were located about a 30-minute walk away. Adding on, when we got to the venue, we saw that there were a lot of cats literally on the guest tables, and some guests were horrified to find cat poop at their designated seats and tables. The staff took its time to do something about it, so those guests left soon after. Next, the food. The food itself was terrible. The desserts were in a horrible shape and were nothing but a crumbling crust and fruit paste that had to be scraped onto the plate. The cooked dishes weren't properly stored beforehand, and lots of it smelled spoiled, which later turned out to be true since people began complaining about stomach pains. Third, wedding ceremony in the midst of summer at an outdoor venue is not a good idea. Cousin's wife's wedding ceremony was incredibly long, about 2 hours. Again, it was the middle of summer at an outdoor venue, so it was hot. Not only had staff closed the bar for the 2 whole hours of the ceremony, we weren't even able to get a glass of water. Fourth, the staff. They were highly unprofessional, and while they did have fans set up at the beginning around the tables and dance floor, they were later picked up and the owner refused to get them out even though people were starting to fry. Finally, the music/DJ. The music was ridiculously loud, as in take the maximum volume on Gerard 401 speakers and multiply it by 20 times. While of course it's only natural for people to have a different taste in music, let's just say that the playlist cousin's wife had chosen didn't fit a wedding at all. If anything, it was more suitable for a kid's birthday party. Needless to say, with lack of any ventilation and the extremely loud volume, other than cousin's wife and her few sisters and friends, the dance floor was mostly deserted. I didn't stay long much either, and left right after my fiancé began complaining about severe stomach pains, which later turned out to be food poisoning. We spent the night at the ER, so that was fun. Back in the present, cousin's wife kept running my ear off how amazing hers was, and how ours could be just as amazing if we stuck to her plan, meaning copy and paste hers onto ours. When she had noticed I was silent, she was about to pitch her idea to me again, but I quickly shut it down. I reminded how a good chunk of her guests ended up with food poisoning, my fiancé included, as well as that several of the said guests later on sued the venue. I then informed her that my fiancé and I have already decided which venue we'd like our wedding to be at, and basically informed her that while I appreciate her willingness to help out, our tastes do not match and would prefer to consult people who are more familiar with fiancé and myself. I was upset and wanted to rage on about how her wedding sucked, and our grandfather, mine and her husband's grandfather, nearly ended up dehydrated, but I held it in and simply ended the call. I knew she was upset because this was a woman who has rarely heard the word no throughout her life, So I was mentally preparing for whatever hostile fire coming my way, and sure enough, cousin hits up my phone and demands to know what I said to his wife because she hasn't stopped crying since we ended our conversation. I told him she decided upon herself to plan our wedding, but I refused. He was a bit hysterical at first, but calmed down a bit after I explained myself. He knows I wouldn't make this stuff up. His wife, on the other hand, said I called her names, that my fiancé hates her. She does, but I've never said anything about it. That we're going to sue her, and that my family can't wait until my cousin divorces her. I chuckled a bit and told cousin exactly what I said and even offered to send him a recording of the call. All of my calls are recorded. Trust issues. He said he'd like to listen to it, so I later sent him the recording. He later called again and said that they had a big argument and she went to spend the night at a friend's. Later that night, it was brought up to my attention that cousin's wife went on social media to say how I'm a horrible person who hates her and is the sole reason of why her marriage is crumbling. However, she soon removed the posts when people who knew better came to defend me, and I even made a reply that I can share the recording with whoever's interested. Edit. Guys, I won't be sharing the recording here because 1. It's all in Hebrew. 2. It was offered as a comment on her Facebook post cousin's wife made, but have since removed it as she got caught. Entitled mom wants to let entitled kid drive my new car. For some context, I bought myself a Mini Cooper SE, the first fully electric vehicle by Mini, a few weeks before this story happened. Where I live, Germany, electric cars need to have a so-called AVAS, acoustic vehicle alerting system, turned on when driving below 30 kilometers per hour. The system makes a sound to warn walkers and bikers on the street because electric vehicles normally don't make noise. The one on the Mini Cooper SE kinda sounds like a spaceship, will be important for later. Now on to the story. About half a year ago, we celebrated my grandma's 60th birthday and I took my new Mini to get to the celebration. I didn't know who else was invited, but I didn't care at the time. The ride to my grandma's place was long, and I knew that I needed to recharge at my grandma's place or else I couldn't make it back home. So I arrive at my grandma's place and I see a few people, including entitled aunt and entitled kid, waiting for me in the driveway. To park in the parking lot that they prepared for me, the one next to an outlet where I could charge my car, I drove rather slowly because I only did this a few times before and I was extra careful, and therefore the AVAS was turned on. I get out, plug my car into the outlet, and we go inside to celebrate. After about 2 hours, I wanted to check if my car was alright. It was rather new at this time, so this was normal for me, and to get some fresh air. I see the entitled aunt and entitled kid looking at my car. The following conversation went kind of like this. Entitled kid.
Mummy, this car sounded like a spaceship.
Entitled aunt.
I know, sweetie. I don't know why it does that, though.
Me. Can I help you with something?
Is this your car?
Yes.
My kid wants to drive it.
Me, a little confused. What? I can drive a bit and take him with me if you want.
No, he wants to drive it. It doesn't look as complicated as a normal car, so I'm sure he can drive it.
Context. The Cooper SE has only 2 pedals and no gear lever because it's electric. Also, when talking about my car earlier, I said that it feels like you're driving a go-kart. Me. He sure doesn't. It's way more complicated than it looks.
But it sounded like a spaceship, so it can't be more than a little toy.
Entitled kid.
I want to drive the spaceship now.
Me. Sorry, but I can't allow that.
Why not? You're just selfish. Sure, he can drive for a minute or two in the driveway here.
Me. No, he's just a kid.
I bet you don't even own that car. It surely is stolen or someone else owns it.
Me. No, I got the keys. I pull out the keys and open the car. Big mistake.
Look, sweetie, now you can get in.
She picks up her son and puts him in the driver's seat. Me, very annoyed and angry at this point. Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?
You have been very rude to me and my little angel, so he deserves to drive in your car.
He couldn't start up the car because it was still plugged in. He was messing around with the electronics inside and he tried to start the engine multiple times. There's a yellow obvious start switch below the GPS system. Me, very angry. Would you please take your kid out of my car?
No, he deserves it.
That's when I had enough. I pushed the entitled mom aside and opened the driver's seat door, take the entitled kid out of my car and put him on the floor on his feet. What does this entitled jerk do? He lets himself fall on purpose and starts crying that he got hurt while I was taking him out of the car. The entitled aunt is screaming about her son. I really didn't use much force or anything. The other family remembers hearing entitled kids crying. Meanwhile, I unplug my car, get into it, and drive away. On my way back home, I had to recharge once, and that's where I called the others back and told them what happened. They told me that entitled aunt has tried to call the ambulance and has been kicked out of the celebration. If you tell me this is a fake story, I tell you that you're wrong. Thanks for reading. What do you think about electric vehicles? Would you ever want one or not? Please let us know.
I think they're awesome, but I want to wait until the price comes down before I look into getting one.
Entitled neighbors make my life heck. I returned the favor by getting them raided. As we found out that we'd be expecting not one, but 2 kids, we knew we had to move to a real house with more space. At the time, we were still living in a 1-bedroom studio, 1 up from the ground floor, with its only entrance being a metal fire escape, stairs. Not ideal for a pregnant woman, let alone to live with 2 small babies. So we found a privately leased house that was newly renovated and had all the room and a large garden we were looking for, signed the lease, and immediately collected the keys. As the owner drove off, the woman next door comes up to us, immediately demanding we not make noise before noon as her boyfriend works nights and sleeps in, and a whole bunch of other do's and don'ts. So right off the bat, I knew trouble incoming. As the house was fully renovated and not much had to be done, we were like, don't poke the bear. We'll do the things that make noise after noon. We moved in after 2 weeks and the whole street was warm and welcoming. My wife was almost due giving birth to my twin daughters, and some offered help with anything we needed. Real kind people. They also told us about our neighbors. Nobody liked them. He was a big bully and got into arguments with everybody. Also were known as radio pirates, as in illegal broadcasting on radio, with all Dutch bangers. This music is just terror in your ears, which went alongside them partying Thursday through Sunday till 5 in the morning. Loud music, constant yelling, always drunk, etc. Really something to look forward to when moving in, certainly with 2 babies on the way. The partying began immediately, full blast. Real classy for someone demanding to be quiet when jerk needs his beauty sleep. Then one day my father-in-law came to put new grass in. He has his trailer parked at the back of our house, which is public space. Not according to him though. No, that exact spot where the trailer, full with grass sod, quite heavy stuff, was parked was his spot, and we had to move the trailer. Not going to happen, as I was not planning to walk all the way around the house with the sod. He gets angry right away and demanded me to move it. I told him to go forget himself. I was done with him already then and there. I'm also a ginger, so besides having no soul, I do have a temper which is always in check until you provoke me repeatedly. Anyone who knows me will tell you that you really had to make an effort for that to happen. We went on working, end of day comes when my father-in-law wants to leave. He hooks up the trailer and bam, there was Jerk telling him off, telling him it's his spot and he better not do this again or else. Mess with me all you want, I can handle it. But what you don't do is threaten my family. I ran outside and told him in no uncertain terms to back off or he'll be the sorry one. Total bluff on my side. Yes, I have that temper, but I'm not impressively built and have no hidden fighting skills. I do fight dirty. He backs off, father-in-law leaves, and I go inside where I find my wife crying. She got scared of him maybe doing something to her father and or me, and this is something we don't need right now. Combined with hormones from being pregnant, and you can paint the picture. So I'm even more upset, but had to promise not to act on anything. I won't, dear. Not yet anyway. Time went on without any real incident, and then came the time my wife goes into labor. Didn't go smooth and ended up having to deliver with C-section, or whatever it's called, because daughter 2 almost got caught in the umbilical cord. We had to stay 3 nights, excruciating nights due to a lot of things. Finally, we get to go home. Family had put a giant sign in our front yard welcoming the babies. The sign was already up for a few days prior to coming home, so our friendly neighbors definitely knew about it. But did they give a flying hoot? No, they did not. From the first night on, they started to party and broad blasted their terror music. They started at noon and continued to until 5 or 6 in the morning. Classy. They also kept going for days, so it wasn't just Thursday through Sunday. It was all week long and the next. So we were broken, hardly slept. One of our daughters suffered from heavy cramps combined with all the noise and her parents at the end of their wits, so she cried a lot. And then I just had it. I researched some things on radio pirates, the laws and regulations, and on his large 5-meter plus antenna in his backyard, which was illegal in itself. But he used it to illegally broadcast on radio, which meant he had a lot of equipment to do so, which was even more illegal and can even get you jailed. But at the very least, they could seize it all and fine him big time, in the $10,000 to $45,000 area. Now, I did not immediately turn him in, but instead, I was looking for another house to lease first. This was because I figured it wouldn't sit well with him and having a wife and 2 babies in the house alone during the day because I had to go to work. I hear you guys thinking, why not involve the police? Well, they are utterly useless in cases like this. We called once, and what they did disturbs me to this day. They rang at the doorbell and immediately started off by saying we called them about noise complaints. Yes, you read that right. No protection or whatsoever. They blatantly just told them the reason they're there, told them to keep it down, and that was it. They didn't even follow up with us or anything. As you can guess, Jerk was now even more upset and told me the next day, or yelled over the fence that separates our backyards, that I really should not do that again, a threat yet again of which I told the police. I didn't report it the first time as I chalked that up to alpha male or heat of the moment, but without witnesses to corroborate, nothing could be done yet again. Some days later, I walked out the front door and he just stepped out of his car, came up to me demanding I cut some of our ivy that grew on our side of the fence because it tangled in with his big antenna. He would be gone for some hours and I could come into his garden to cut back the ivy that grew through on the side. And then a light bulb went off above my head. I told him politely that I would do that immediately. Why? Because that gave me the opportunity to find out the make and model of his antenna, to ascertain its signal strength, where the cables go exactly, and what kind of cables they were. Again, to know the signal strength it handled. Also, it gave me a good view on the equipment he had, through the window so I could snap some photographs of it. This was the icing on the cake. Because in the meantime, we did manage to find a new home and had already signed the lease so we could be gone in 2 weeks. Luckily, we only had to paint some walls for the girls' room and furthermore, just pack up our things and move them to the other house. So after I trimmed the ivy and collected my evidence, I went online that night to find out the proper channels to report a broadcast pirate and which entity was tasked with catching said pirate. Turned out I had to call the telecom agency, but also the police. Wasn't too happy with the latter, but I remembered I have a nephew that works for the police. Officially, his area was immigration, but he knew enough colleagues that could help us and we could trust not to confront them again saying I was the one that sent them. That was extremely important for our safety when doing what I was doing. So I gave both the agency and the police all the evidence I collected, pointed them to the frequencies he pirated so they could listen in. Then they started a neighborhood investigation, which wasn't really necessary, but this was to cover our butts, to make it look like they had caught him by accident because they had an active investigation in our area. You never know what he can learn from legal documents and such. We asked them to wait with the raid. Yes, they raid pirates' houses, preferably in the early hours of the day because of his beauty sleep rendering him incapable of fleeing or hiding evidence, etc. We moved 2 weeks later and they raided him 2 days after we moved. All of his equipment, computers, radios, cell phone, and his car were seized. He left in cuffs. His wife/girlfriend did too for making a big scene and tried to interfere. All of which was live reported to me by one of our ex-neighbors who were equally ecstatic about this. It turned out this wasn't the first time he got caught, but his 3rd time. His car had no insurance on it and his MOT failed. This guy normally would have no big consequences because he didn't drive it while raided, but they had the guy surveilled on for a week and that definitely meant he was seen driving it while not having insurance or valid MOT. He was fined somewhere around 30,000 euros, went to jail for 12 weeks, and everything seized was destroyed except for the car. His girlfriend had to do 40-some hours community service. They had to sell the house, which made me very happy for the neighbors as they too were over and done with them. Like I said, I do fight, but very dirty. You have to really make an effort for me to get to that point. They did and suffered. Over a year later, when shopping for groceries, I encountered them. With the foulest of looks. If looks could kill, I'd be a smoldering heap of ash, but nothing more than that. Have you ever had neighbors that you just couldn't stand? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
Haven't we all, Reddit boy? Haven't we all?
Am I the jerk for insisting my sister gets a prenuptial agreement? My sister and I are property investors who own 6 investment properties together. I know how the internet feels about evil landlords, so spare me that, please. That's not why I'm here. We started with one house to live in, then bought lots of cheap houses and flipped them for rental income. We're doing well financially because of said houses. My sister is getting married. Wedding is later this year, hopefully. I'm helping her plan, and we were going through a to-do list, seeing what's left to be done. She mentioned caterers, venues, invites, etc., and asked if she'd forgotten anything. I said, yes, prenup, and we both sang, "We want prenup, yeah," like the Kanye song, then laughed. She moved on to the next item without actually addressing it. I leave it for then, and we go our separate ways. I text her later in the evening and say, "Hey, my friend used a really good lawyer to draw her prenup, so let me know if you want me to ask her for her deeds." She replies she thought I was joking. She's not asking her husband to sign a prenup. I reply I wasn't joking and I must insist he signs one. She calls and says it's not my place to insist. I say it is when our assets are tied together. She asks me if I'm trying to say something about her future husband. I say I'm trying to be realistic and smart. Then it all goes to heck. She starts yelling at me about being rude, jinxing her marriage before it began, yada yada yada. I say either she gets a prenup or we transfer all property to my name and I get one if I ever get married, then I hang up. Been bombarded by family saying her future husband is a good guy who would never do that if they separated. He sent me a text admonishing me for hurting my sister and calling him a gold digger. He thought I liked him. I'm not backing down on this one. Am I the jerk for how I went about it or wanting one? ETA. This has gotten far bigger than I anticipated. Thanks for your input and comments. Delivery wasn't the best, I concede. I will be getting in touch with a conveyancing solicitor soon to help protect our assets. Update. It's been about 6 weeks since everything went down. I need to clarify a few things. I can't afford to buy her out, so that's not an option. She also doesn't want to sell because these are long-term investments for us. It wasn't a case of we each own 50-50 in the properties. Between us, we know that's the case. However, legally, sometimes I own 75% to her 25% and vice versa because of our financial standing at the time we purchased the properties. I would stand to lose a lot if her marriage went south because some of the more expensive properties she holds more equity in. The properties that have been paid off, we've both been able to change the deeds on those, but those still mortgaged are that way at the bank's insistence. We have transferred all of the properties into a trust. It is a legal protection that outlines how everything is split, including clarifications on who owns how much. It says that spouses are not entitled to anything related to the houses. We've also decided to end our business ventures together. We'll keep managing the properties, but we won't buy any more together for the sake of the relationship. We're doing okay, still not as it were, but that is to be expected, I guess. Her husband-to-be is still withdrawn around me, but honestly, I don't care. Their wedding is going ahead as planned later this year, hopefully. Thanks to all who offered advice. The laws in my country are a little different, but we found a solution. Update over, short and sweet. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for wanting her sister to sign the prenup or not? Please let us know. Want hotel-level service? Book a hotel then. I work front desk at a relatively big apartment complex, which has some owners/companies doing Airbnb in some of the units. A lot of the property owners hate these units, as a lot of them are normally not vetted properly and just book a room to party for a night and trash the place, as it's cheaper to do so compared to a hotel room. Luckily, my job does not require me to provide any service to Airbnb guests, as we're only paid to look after the building and the tenants. One day, there's this group of 6 to 10 women who have booked a 2-bedroom apartment for a hen's night, bachelorette party, and you can probably imagine where this is going. They come into the lobby, and the exchange goes as this. We've got guest and me. Guest.
Hi there, we are checking in. Here are the papers.
Puts booking papers on the desk. Me. Hi there, I assume you're an Airbnb apartment? In that case, we don't handle keys or the check-in process for your apartment.
It says here that we need to collect the keys from you.
Me, reading the instructions. Hi, sure. It says here that you go pick up the keys from the locker down the street.
Oh my god, why is check-in at the place so difficult?
Me. Unfortunately, this place is not a hotel, so we do not handle Airbnb guests. Guest groans, and eventually leaves to get their keys. Later that night, guest phones intercom.
Excuse me, bucket of ice to our room, please. Thanks.
Hangs up. Me calling back. Hi there. We do not provide that service here. If you require ice, look into the freezer in your fridge or go to the convenience shop across the road.
There is not enough ice here. Can you go fetch us some from the shop then? Thanks.
Me. No, I cannot. As I said, we do not provide those services.
Well, that's a rude shock. Can you go get us extra towels for the room ASAP?
Me. Please ask your Airbnb host.
Do you do anything? Do you even know the Wi-Fi password?
Please ask your Airbnb host.
Honestly, shocking service. We'll never be staying here again, and we'll be leaving you a really bad review.
Me. As I mentioned before, this place is not a hotel. You have booked an Airbnb apartment, so anything you require should be communicated to your host.
Terrible service.
Am I the jerk for ignoring my long-term girlfriend's wishes when buying a house? I, 26, male, have been living with my girlfriend, 24, female, for about 4 years now with no major issues. We've been together for 6 years. I bought a house. Yay! But my girlfriend isn't happy. Boo! Because I basically excluded her from the process. Last year I proposed to her. She said no, she's not ready for that commitment. This is relative to why she thinks I'm the jerk. Fine, fair enough. I'll try again later. I have the rest of my life to get that sorted out, and I love this girl, so we'll ride it out until she changes her mind. When I started house shopping, I had a couple of requirements. Under this price that I could comfortably afford in my own. Has at least 2-car garage, has at least 3 bedrooms and a good-sized kitchen, is within 30 minutes from my job. My girlfriend also laid out some requirements. A fireplace, a large yard in case we get a dog or have kids, located in a specific area of town, stainless steel appliances, under Y price that we could afford together, but I couldn't comfortably alone. I should clarify that I never stated or intended to imply that I would buy a house that met what she wanted. I told her I'd see what I can find, but clarified I'm not going to turn away a great house just because something is a deal breaker for her. I found a house that fits all of my requirements. It's closer to both of our jobs than our apartment, is in a nice area of town, but not where she wanted, and has a decent-sized yard, but not quite what my girlfriend wanted. No fireplace either. The kitchen has white appliances, but it's functional and not hideous. I went to go see it alone. She was working and houses are going fast, so the day could have made the difference, and put in an offer immediately and it was accepted. I brought her around later to see it, but by that time I was already under contract pending inspection. Another note is that I didn't include her on any of the paperwork. My thought process is that A, she didn't want to commit to marriage, so she's not sure our relationship is permanent yet. And if that's the case, I don't want to tie us together for 30 years. I didn't say that directly until she pushed. I didn't want to make her feel pressured. B, we can always get another house later if circumstances change. We just have to take some time to get together the down payment. I offered to pay the full mortgage and split the rest, the same way we have been since she'll have no legal right to the property. I don't personally see us separating, but she sees this as me trying to get back at her for not saying yes, and there's a divide between our friends over whether or not I'm being a jerk by not at least putting her on the paperwork. Am I the jerk? Edit for clarity. I should clarify, she offered to go half on the mortgage and down payment. She would just need a couple months to get the cash together. But I shot that down after discussing it with a few people and deciding that I would only put myself on the paperwork. If that changes your judgment, so be it, but I want to make sure all of the info is available. Edit 2. Not that it's important to me, but it keeps coming up. We live in a state with no common law marriage. They will recognize a common law marriage from another state, but they will not establish one. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is his girlfriend? Please let us know.
Never buy a house with someone you're not married to. You're darn right to not put her name on the paperwork, and if she's not ready to commit after being together for 6 years, I don't know why you're still with her.
We let someone else have your night off, so you have to work now. Me. Hey boss, it's my best friend's wedding in 4 months, and I'm the best man. I won't be available on the last Saturday in July. Boss. Okay. 3 months later. Boss. Hey everyone. Jasmine is taking 2 consecutive Saturdays off next month. Make sure you don't book the same days off. Me. Remember, I'm not available 4 weeks from now. Just a friendly reminder. Did you just say you're not available on the last Saturday in July? That's right, I'm not available. No, you can't have that off. I just said that I told Jasmine she can have that day off. Me. Well, untell her then. I told you 3 months ago.
No, you didn't. I don't remember that. You're only telling me now, and I can't spare two people off on the same night. That's not how this works. You can't have that day off.
Me. I told you 3 months ago. You said yes at the time. It's my best mate's wedding, and I'm the best man, remember?
Then you'll have to tell your mate to get a new best man then. You know the policy, only one person off at a time. If you really did book it, then you should have reminded me sooner. Don't tell me 4 months out and expect me to remember. You're coming in or you're fired.
So I talked to Jasmine. Jasmine, sorry, I can't come in. I'm going back to my home country for 2 weeks. I'm going to see my grandmother for her birthday. We think it will be her last one. All the family really want to be together at this time. So, with Jasmine having one of the most justifiable reasons to be away that Saturday, every week leading up to that shift, I told the boss I would not be coming in and they should find cover. I worked the Friday before the wedding, and after we shut the restaurant down, I had this conversation just as I was leaving around 1 a.m. Me. I strongly suggest you find a way to get cover for me because I won't be in tomorrow. Boss.
Yes, you will. I've ignored your little game. The rules are clear. You can't have the time off or don't bother coming back Sunday.
Me. I'm not coming in.
So you're telling me you quit?
No.
If you're saying you're not coming in, you're saying that you don't want this job at all.
Me. I want to keep my job. I just can't work tomorrow.
Put it this way. You're here for your shift tomorrow. If you're not here, ready to work at 5 p.m., then you're fired. If I were you, I'd think very carefully about what I would do.
Me. I'm not quitting, but I am going to my friend's wedding.
Then I hope your friend can get you a new job, because this is your last shift. Bye-bye.
Me. What?
I've been quite clear. We're already one person down tomorrow night. We're fully booked, and you want to abandon us all here? You're not a team player, and I don't want someone as selfish as you working here.
Me. That's it? After all the years I've worked here, this is really how we're doing this? Boss.
Not we. You.
Me. So you don't want me in on Sunday either? Are you sure?
This is your last shift. I'm being very clear. You said that you can't work tomorrow, so in my mind, you're not working here again. There's a simple choice for you. Come in and keep your job, or don't come in, and you'll never work here again.
Me. It's sad it came to this, but I'm not coming in. I've been friends with this guy my whole life. We went to preschool together. I will be at his wedding tomorrow.
Then you're fired.
I'm sorry it came to this. I did give you 4 months notice. Good luck in the future. Boss.
I'd say the same, but I wouldn't mean it.
Me. Okay then, good night. I walk out and start walking to my car. The boss starts yelling after me as I'm walking away.
You gave 3 weeks notice, maximum. I told you no. You're so selfish. You'll never get another job as long as I can see to it.
17 hours later. Phone is on silent, but is going crazy, vibrating away. As we make our way to the reception, I look, and there's about 14 missed calls and a heap of voicemails. They're all from the boss. I turned my phone off completely and left it for the rest of the night. My friend had a beautiful wedding day, and I was very proud to be there. The next day I woke up around 9 a.m. and turned on my phone. There were over 30 missed calls from the restaurant, a heap of messages, and a dozen voicemails. I decided to delete all of the voicemails without listening to them. I hate the stress of all that, listening and reading all that hateful and spiteful stuff. Not long after, the restaurant called again. It was the boss's daughter. Her. Boss wants to know if you're coming in today. Me. No, I don't work there anymore. Her. Don't be silly. Are you coming in or not? Me. Boss fired me. Her. Boss is hot-headed, and I need you to work. I'm sorry for what she said. Come in and I'll make sure everything will be like normal. So I went in. The whole shift I got the silent treatment from the boss, which was actually quite refreshing. I asked another waiter what it was like to work without me there. They said it was very busy, but they coped fine, and the night ran smoothly other than everyone having to pick up an extra table to cover me. I found another job, and after 2 weeks' notice, I was gone by mid-September. Am I the jerk for refusing to even entertain the idea of dressing my kids up to see their grandparents? Their grandparents are my biological parents. My parents and I have spent some time apart. I stopped speaking to them around 2011, and we got back in touch in 2018 when I sent them invitations to my wedding. I have 3 kids, ages 11, 7, and 5. We've not seen my parents in person for a while due to current restrictions, but 2 weekends ago we were able to meet them. I felt the meeting was fine. However, afterwards I texted them to say we should meet up again soon, suggesting this weekend. They said yes, but the response was very curt and I felt they might be upset with me. I asked if something was wrong, but they insisted it was fine. Fast forward to today, and we're planning to meet up again tomorrow. I was confirming they were still good to meet, and Mom made some comment about making sure the kids put in an effort this time. I thought she was talking about their attitude, so I called her to ask if my kids insulted her somehow, but she said that she meant appearance. She feels that last weekend, when my kids all showed up in their trainers, jeans, and a hoodie, they were being disrespectful and not putting in the effort. I said, "Mom, they're kids for goodness sake." Mom maintained that there was a certain level of respect accompanying clothing, and them wearing anything less than smart casual was disrespectful, considering that she and my dad, as well as my husband and I, put in effort. I refused to even let her finish half of her sentence, saying I wouldn't make my kids dress up to see them. Mom became frustrated and ended the call, but I then received a string of texts about how it would be nice if I could convince the kids to look nice when they see her, saying it's not a lot to ask and it teaches good habits. And even if I wouldn't do that, the absolute least I could have done was let her finish a sentence. I said she should say something else then, and she said I was being very rude by not letting her have an opinion and shutting her down like I did, and expects an apology. Info. Mom defines smart casual as shirts with buttons or trousers for the boys, not both at once, and a skirt or nice top for my daughter. She says the trainers can stay if they must. She feels that a buttoned shirt or a skirt is not a lot to ask, particularly in summer, when a skirt or short-sleeve shirt would be more appropriate for the weather. Info 2. I'm also unsure if this is a generational thing, as my parents are only in their very early 50s and I've just turned 28. So while there is a small generational gap, it's nothing massive. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Grandma? Please let us know. Speaking of clothing, you really need to start dressing better, Reddit boy. You look hideous in that little suit you wear. Karen, future mother-in-law, was wearing my fiance's engagement ring. For context, I, 30 male, and my fiance, 28 female, got engaged 2 years ago, and we have a nearly 2-year-old son. And to help her mother out, we moved in with her over 2 years ago because she couldn't pay for her house herself. And my fiance said a bit of support would be nice when the baby came. Ever since we moved in, you can't actually have anything to yourself. Food, snacks, the TV. Once she was wearing one of my hoodies, so I literally can't have the clothes on my back. But one thing we put the foot down on was her engagement ring. The day I gave it to her, she insisted on trying it on. Fiance said no multiple times. Future mother-in-law went far enough to try to take it from her hand until I physically took her hands off my fiance and told her to back off, and then told her that ring is her daughter's and no one else will be wearing it, trying it on, or anything else, and that we really feel it's disrespectful and bad luck to wear someone else's engagement ring. It was brought up constantly over the next 2 years. She never gave up. But last night was where it blew up. My fiance was putting on fake tan in future mother-in-law's room. It's only a 2-bedroom house, and I was putting the little lad to sleep, so she couldn't go anywhere else. And she naturally took the ring off to put on her tan and left it on the side locker. After I got my son asleep, we went downstairs and future mother-in-law went to bed. And as we were watching TV, my partner jumps up and says, "Oh no, I left my ring in future mother-in-law's room." So she goes up to get it, and it's not where she left it. So she woke up her mother, and before she asks, she sees it on her hand while she's asleep. When she told me that's where it was, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I shouted at her that the level of disrespect we suffer around, there's a lot more that I can't fit on this thread. Here was too much, and we were moving out ASAP. She starts crying about not being able to pay the bills, and she'll be homeless, yada yada, and to be honest, I don't care anymore. Because not once did I hear an apology from her breaking the most clear boundary I have set for living with her, and for upsetting my fiance. It's a superstition in her family that if someone wears the ring before the couple gets married, that the marriage won't last. Also worth noting, future mother-in-law has a lot of warts on her hands, at least 20, from poor hygiene that she's been told by her doctor are contagious, but won't get treated. So, am I blowing this up a bit too much, or what? Am I the jerk? Edit. Just to clarify on the wart thing, I know they can only be spread by broken skin, but she has so many due to poor hygiene and is constantly picking at them, breaking the skin and making it worse. Edit 2.
I said we moved in with her so my fiance could have support with a new baby, but we don't trust her with our son. After a few times, she watched him and left him in dirty nappies and neglected him. She hasn't been on her own with him since he was a couple of months old. It was just a reason we moved in that didn't work out. What would you do if you caught your future mother-in-law wearing your fiance's engagement ring? Please let us know.
Like I'd ever get you an engagement ring, vetted boy.
Strict compliance leads to a company collapsing. I worked for a major government contractor for a government agency. If I named the agency or location, it would be pretty obvious to people with long memories and an axe to grind. I'd risen up through the ranks because I have a good technical knowledge and I have a knack for seeing a big picture view of big projects and seeing potential problems. I was very good at what I did. Many managers didn't like me because I pointed out problem areas, over 75% accuracy, and I stated facts without regard for management politics. I didn't suck up. Some managers gave fair-haired boy, a suck-up, credit for my work, which I'd done before fair-haired boy was even working on the project. Then they desperately needed my technical expertise on a very large procurement, 8 digits. I wrote most of the technical specifications, identifying risk areas and the consequences of bad procurement decisions. Fair-haired boy dismissed my arguments as no big deal, and we can work around that. So management ignored me and ended up buying inadequate equipment. I was reassigned again, and fair-haired boy was given what should have been my job, with a promotion and a big raise. My parting gift to the project managers was a detailed memo highlighting every technical problem that I foresaw in that development and how it could be avoided. It was a very long list of nearly 100 watch items, and they ended up hitting almost all of them. As usual, management ignored me. Due to the company rules and a lot of prior excellent personnel performance reviews, management couldn't fire me immediately, but I could tell I was being set up for termination. I was assigned a job to work directly with the customer as liaison, actually sitting on the customer site. Management figured I'd be an irritant and distract the customer from the company's issues. In the meantime, I'd keep our company informed about what the customer was saying behind closed doors, and I was supposed to tell the customer what the management wanted me to say was happening in the company. Management intended it to be a do-nothing job to keep me out of sight, out of mind. I don't do nothing jobs. I took it seriously. But after a couple of months, management told me in no uncertain terms that I was not permitted to answer the customer's questions about what was going on inside the company on the project, and that I was not permitted to talk at internal company meetings where the customer's needs were being discussed. I was muzzled and set up for failure, or so they thought. Now comes the malicious compliance that ended up with revenge. When asked by the customer, instead of X or Y is happening, my response was pretty much like, I am not permitted to tell you whether the project is significantly over budget, and management won't let me tell you whether or not the company is dropping design requirements for features A and B. I explicitly complied with management's directive of not answering the customer's questions, but I slipped in enough hints in my non-answers that the customer knew where to look and what questions to ask. The customer also kept meeting minutes and often recordings which always reflected that I did not answer questions about the subject under discussion, which was technically the truth. This was very critical later. Eventually, management couldn't hide that the project was way late and over budget, which didn't surprise the customer thanks to my hints. The customer ripped the company a new one in their periodic contract performance review. Note, on government contracts, it's very difficult to get a low performance score. Really difficult. The company got a very low performance score. It was ugly, and the company lost a lot of contract bonuses, which would have been a big part of profits and management bonuses. And fair-haired boy was under such stress trying to solve the problems that I'd warned him about that he had a major heart attack and retired from medical disability at the age of 42. It was a bad heart attack. Naturally, management wanted me to be the scapegoat so they'd get to fire me, but the customer liked how I worked, and they protected me with very careful language in their performance appraisals. Basically, that the task I was doing was the only task in the company that was performing effectively, and everything else stank to high heaven. Upper management didn't dare fire me, or they'd anger the customer even more than they already had, possibly to the point of having the contract taken away for non-performance. One particularly nasty manager who really hated me had to give me a significant pay raise and bonus because of my work. The fallout from the review was bad enough that corporate headquarters did some management shuffling
and a few of my antagonists were suddenly gone. The raise and promotion ended up not mattering because the customer hired me directly working on the same project but on the government side. This caused management to crap their pants because I knew all of their dirty secrets and tricks, but I never ratted on any of the managers or company dirty laundry. I didn't have to. My new coworkers had previously figured out where to focus their attention and what questions to ask to get past the company's BS. I complied strictly with the terms of my separation from the company and gave away no secrets after I left the company. One of the best parts was that in meetings, all I had to do was put on an evil grin and the company managers would practically crap themselves, wondering if I was going to unearth one of their skeletons. I never did. I just liked watching them squirm. They got paranoid about being caught trying to lie to the government that they were admitting bad news up front. Because of bad performance, the management admitted it got even worse for the company. They decided to try letting their legal hounds on me for violating company non-disclosure agreements, but the customer's meeting minutes proved that I hadn't. The contract was restructured to eliminate several blind spots the company had used to their advantage. The customer's oversight of the company rose significantly. Profit margins on the contract shrank. Several of management's favorite employees suddenly had resumes on the street because their protection was disappearing. Even more managers retired or found other jobs. It was glorious to watch, doubly so because I let them do it to themselves. And I was extremely happy in my new job where I still work. Am I the jerk for not telling my coworker that the man she's talking about is my husband? I work for a moderately large company with mostly independent departments. We are in the same building, but we mostly stay within our department. For brevity's sake, my department deals with one region, my husband's department with another. A few months before lockdown started, I got a new coworker and we became friendly soon. Not friends, just casual coworker relationship with a lot of small talk. One day she had to get something done in my husband's department and there was some trouble. As I understand it, many things went wrong. Technical issues, server crash, unhappy client, people were stressed, and she got into some verbal confrontation. When she got back to our office, she vented about that jerk Smith. She asked me if I knew him. I said I did. Then she continued ranting about him, insulting him. I just let her vent, and soon we got back on track. As it should be obvious, that jerk Smith is my husband. In my country, it is very uncommon for the wife not to take her husband's surname. But my husband sounds weird with his surname. Think Sally Smith, the same letters. I don't like it, so I kept my maiden surname. I asked him later what it was about, and he just waved his hand. Stuff happens. Tensions were high, no hard feelings. Well, she had to deal with his department a few more times, fallout of the issue they were dealing with, and every time she went over to their floor, she told me, "Wish me luck that I don't run into that jerk again," and such. When lockdown happened, home office ensued. My husband and I each have a separate home office. I work from the bedroom, he works from the living room. Time passed, and just last week something happened. We are in our third lockdown by now, so home office again. I was on a Zoom meeting with my department. My coworker was present, cameras were on. My husband had some errands to do, and he just dropped by the bedroom to grab something. He was clearly visible in my webcam, but as family members make cameos all the time, nobody commented on it. My coworker messaged me after the meeting asking me if that was Smith. I said, yeah, we're married, have been for 10 years. She called me and sounded incredulous. How could I have not told her before? She said so much crap. And this is where my issue lies. Her problem with him was work-related. It was not personal. Neither he nor I took any offense, and it just didn't occur to me to mention that we are married. I'm very private, and so is he. Edit. Okay, thinking more about this, it did occur to me to tell her, but by that point, she had said so much crap that it would be incredibly awkward for us, and normally our departments don't come into contact at all, so I suppose I hoped it would just fizzle out. Our other coworker knew it, our relationship, but apparently she only ever ranted about him to me, so no other coworker could have warned her. Am I the jerk? I should have told her, but then again, she was being unprofessional. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her coworker? Please let us know.
I probably would have shut it down from the jump. Nobody talks about my Reddit boy and gets away with it.
Entitled kid demands swing at the park. We've got my daughter, we've got entitled kid, and we've got the nosy lady. This happened about 7 to 8 years ago. My daughter and I used to live in an apartment that was walking distance from a public park. Some entitled people went there, but this is the one instance of me being involved. This is a prominently white neighborhood, and my daughter and I are Latina. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it, but I thought I would mention it. I have asthma and get winded rather easily, even when using my inhaler. I will sit on a swing to catch my breath if I'm winded, so I could still keep a clear eye on my daughter, who's about 2 or 3 at this time. After playing with her for a bit, I did just this. There are lots of swings on the park, but I am 5 feet tall, so when I'm winded, I prefer the lower swings. There was another girl there, about age 5 on the swings, and there's an empty swing in between us that separates us. My daughter wanted to take a break and sit on the swing next to me, which was also really low. It touched my heart, so I make sure she gets on and is sitting safely on the swing. I sit myself back down on my swing and sat down. A minute in, and my daughter is suddenly pushed from the swing by the girl on the swing next to her. It was very sudden, and she was unable to land on her feet and instead landed on her hands and knees. Me. Excuse me, why did you push my daughter? I don't understand why you did. Entitled kid.
I'm saving this swing for my friend so she can't sit there.
I took a deep breath, and I understand that she probably wasn't thinking and that I could fairly compromise. Me. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were waiting for a friend, but daughter and I were here before your friend was. I will tell you what, we only want to sit for a few minutes, and as soon as your friend gets here, we will be happy to move. Where is your friend? Entitled kid then points towards a small group of kids riding in a minicar. Her friend is the only girl and seems to be having a blast playing with the car and not in a rush to join entitled kid at all. Daughter begins to attempt to sit back down. Entitled kid pushes her again and starts screaming and stomping her feet.
No, no, no! You can't sit here, because I said it's for my friend.
I look at her and I'm beyond upset, but now in a louder voice. Don't push my daughter. Where are your parents? Enter nosy lady. She had silver hair, glasses, and I had to crane my head up to look at her full on in the face. Nosy lady.
Why are you bullying this girl?
Me. Daughter and I wanted to sit down on the swing. Why are you assuming she's being bullied when she's the one who had pushed my daughter down twice now, unprovoked?
Can't you sit anywhere else?
Me. Why should I have to in a public park? Daughter just wanted to sit next to me, and these are the lowest swings. The friend your granddaughter is waiting for is off playing in the car, and seeing as entitled kid doesn't own the park, she can't call dibs on a swing that isn't being used. And I even try to compromise, but I will not put up with your granddaughter pushing my kid. Nosy lady.
She's not my granddaughter.
Me. Do you even know her?
No, but...
So you're defending a kid you don't know in a situation that doesn't involve you? It's perfectly fine for her to bully my kid off a swing, but when I ask to speak to her parents, I'm a bully? Why can you advocate for a stranger, but I can't stand up for my own daughter? Why does she deserve less than this girl or her friend in a public space? Nosy lady.
Well, you are setting a bad example for your daughter.
Ah, yes. I should let my kid be bullied and allow her to believe she's less than someone else. Why is that?
I just think you're being unreasonable.
Answer my question. Nosy lady just kept repeating herself, and daughter had started to cry at this point while entitled kid seemed smug. I just gave her a hug and told her that we're going to go have fun and not let these bullies ruin our fun time. I stayed for an hour more than what I had planned to make my daughter feel better. Entitled kid's friend never came over to the swings the entire time I was there. I gave a little gesture to nosy lady on my way out when my daughter wasn't looking. Just wanted to share my experience. Am I the jerk for asking our server to take something off of our bill? I took my sister out to dinner for her birthday earlier this week. It was a restaurant with wonderful reviews that we've been wanting to try, so I made us a reservation. We got there about 10 minutes early and were seated pretty much right away. Our server is the one that seated us and said he'd be right back to bring us some water and take our drink orders. It's a pretty small restaurant where they really only had enough seats for about 15 to 20 people, so it isn't that they couldn't see us. As far as I could tell, there were 2 servers working and they did seem pretty busy. 10 minutes go by and still nobody has come back to where we were sitting. Another 10 minutes go by and now we're wondering if we had been forgotten about. I get our server's attention and he comes by to say he'll be right back. Another couple minutes go by and then he comes and seats another couple of 2 people at the table next to us. He immediately brings them water and then takes their drink orders. I try to get his attention again and he says he'll be right back. He goes to put their orders in and then he comes back to take ours. We order drinks and our meals at the same time. They don't have categories of appetizers or mains and stuff like that, but more like small plates, noodle dishes, etc. I ask if we can start with one of the small plates and then we each order something for ourselves. All is well. Eventually our food comes, but it's both of our main dishes. No biggie, I just assume they're busy, so it will all come out at the same time. About halfway through our meal, our small dish still isn't there, so I ask our server, and he said that one just takes a long time to make and will be out shortly. About 40 minutes have gone by, and my sister and I have both finished our dinner, and our small plate still isn't there. At this point, we're both full and don't really care enough to get it. It was around $10, so I figured I'd just ask for it to be removed from the bill, and I'll pay, and that's it. At this time, the other server comes to our table bringing our small plate. Not gonna lie, we're both stuffed. The meals were very large. I say that we're pretty full, so we are just going to do the check and ask if she could take that off since we thought it was going to come out first or with our meal. The server then gets a bit of an attitude and tells us that we should have been told that everything comes out when it's ready and that this thing we ordered takes longer than anything else on the menu to make. However, we were never told that. If we had been told that, we would have been totally fine, but we just never were. Then she promptly brought us our check and waited for us to pay and then stood there until we got up and left. I did check the menu to see if this was stated anywhere, and it wasn't. Overall, the food was incredible, but the service just seemed weird. They were busy, but I don't know. The server made it seem like I was the jerk, so I just wanted to see if I'm in the wrong here. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
That's honestly really bad service. I'd totally leave them a bad review.
You're wearing an apron. I work as an assistant manager at a pizzeria, and my job is a little bit of everything. Yesterday, a paper towel dispenser wasn't working, and after a bit of checking, I found the batteries that powered it had run out. We didn't have any spares in the restaurant, so I took my motorcycle to my local grocery store down the road. I go in and swerve past all of the people doing their dinner time shopping. After years of stopping at the store, many of the employees know me as the dude who works at the pizza place down the road. And today I'm in full uniform wearing jeans and a black shirt that has bits of flour on the shoulders. The logo of the pizza company is plastered on my chest as well as the middle of my red apron. I go to the location of the batteries, which is a counter between check stands 3 and 4, and began looking for D batteries. Before I can reach out and grab my choice, I hear a ahem from behind me. I look around and see a wild Karen. Karen.
Excuse me, do you have any toilet paper?
Me. I'm sorry, I don't work here, but I think they're on aisle 12. Karen, huffing.
Well, are you going to take me there?
Me. I'm sorry, but I don't work here. As I grab my batteries.
Don't lie to me. You're wearing an apron.
Just then, a cashier who I know opened check stand 4. I swerve past Karen and place my batteries on the conveyor belt. Cashier. Hey, pizza nerd, how's it going? Karen.
Excuse me, I want to complain about this rude employee of yours.
Points a finger at me.
He won't show me where the toilet paper is.
Me, turning to Karen. Ma'am, I don't work here.
Then why are you wearing an apron?
Me. I point to the pizzeria logo on my apron. I work at the pizzeria down the road. I don't work here. I just came here for the batteries. Cashier. The batteries come to $11.50. Me. I pay for the batteries and turn to Karen one last time. The toilet paper is on aisle 12. Have a nice day. And I walk out. At the end of the night, I go back to the grocery store with a box of pepperoni pizza. I see the cashier closing a register, and we have a laugh as she tells me this is not the first time that particular Karen has mistaken a customer for an employee. Don't want to tell me where you are? Fine, you're not getting your dinner. I work at a hospital as a receptionist/admissions person. It's as rough and chaotic as you'd think it is. Anyways, a lot of people don't like hospital food, and so they order a delivery service to have food brought to them. That's fine, but the delivery person can't actually come up to their room. It has to be left with us, and we fill out a form and take it to the patient. There is one piece of information that is so incredibly important. Your room number. For those who may not know, delivery people only see your first name and last initial, and that's all the information they can give me. So if I don't have your room number, chances are I will not be able to find you based off of just your first name. A few nights ago, a delivery man came in with $30 to $40 worth of food. The name was a super generic male name, like John A., obviously not the real name, and of course, no room number. I asked the delivery man if he could call the customer, and he said that he would. When the customer picked up, before he could even say hello, I heard some yelling on the other end. The delivery man let me know that the customer said,
Why are you calling me? I don't want to talk to you. Leave it with the front desk and leave me alone.
"You don't want to talk to us? Even when we're trying to find you so we can bring you the food that you paid for? Fine." I very happily let the delivery man know that I would take it from there, and I placed the food on the counter where deliveries go, and it sat there for 4 hours. The food got cold, and the milkshake turned into a sugary, lukewarm slime. But it gets better. 4 hours later, a nurse came down and asked if we had food for a John A. I told her we did and showed her the bag of food. She examined the receipt and said, "Oh, he can't have any of this." What did he buy? 2 burgers, a chili dog, a side of fries, and a large chocolate milkshake. If he wasn't a jerk and gave us a room number, there's a solid chance that someone would have delivered it to him without his nurse realizing what he got. But because he decided he was too good to speak to us lowly peasants, he had to send his nurse to collect his very cold food that he had been waiting for, only to have it taken away. How you Redditors taught us something new. We recently decided we had to go out of town because my husband wanted to take a day off work, and if he's not physically unreachable, they will call him into work. So we decided to go to some parks and stay at a nearby hotel. Note that we chose this hotel based on which one was at the level of amenity we wanted, where we wanted, and looked to have really high standards in terms of the whole that which shall not be named. We got into town between 12 and 1 p.m., and my husband said, "Oh no, the check-in is not until 3 p.m. But I, having read this sub, had a brilliant idea that I've learned from the lovely people who post here. I told him that we could just go in and be very, very nice and just ask politely. We go in, and the poor front desk woman is trying to take a reservation from someone who's not being cooperative about reciting their credit card to her in a comprehensible way. She's giving us these "please be patient while I deal with this person" eyes, while attempting to get the person on the phone to give their credit card for what appeared to be the 345th time. She finally gets them to give her the information she needs and hangs up, then turns to us, immediately thanking us for being patient. We explained that we realized we're quite early, but is it possible that the room is ready? And if not, that's totally okay and we don't mind. But can we leave our suitcases somewhere so we don't have to leave them in the car? She pauses and obviously is evaluating us for niceness or something, because she then says that she will go check, goes off and comes back a minute later and says, yes, the room is ready and we can check in. Hooray! So when we are leaving, she thanked us for staying and starts to go in the back. Then I stopped her, and she thought I had not heard her and just repeated that. But I handed her a tip and said, "Oh no, I wanted to thank you because I know you don't have to let us check in early and we really appreciate you doing that." She looked very surprised, then said, "You're absolutely right, we don't have to, but it's a pleasure to do it for some guests." Which I'm sure it was a pointed remark to the very large college group who had come in the night after we did, who didn't seem to feel that the signs everywhere on the premises informing people that they had to wear masks applied to them, and whom I had commented on to her about the previous day. How exactly can you be in college and not be able to read a sign consisting of a dozen words or fewer? Entitled guy wonders why he doesn't have a date for the wedding. So my mom has a catering company, and when she has a big job, as it's a family-run business, she will ask me and my sister to help out now and again when she needs it. We're not fans of it because we don't like people, but it's my mom's baby and we love her. This particular time, it was a very chilled style wedding with an assembly line where we would divvy out my mom's delicious food. Anyways, I can hear this guy in the line loudly talking about how no one wanted to be his date for the wedding. Poor him, he's such a nice guy, etc. He gets to my mom in line and compliments the look of the food and asks if she's the owner. She says yes, and that her 2 lovely daughters are helping. Entitled guy looks at me and then my sister and says,
"Well, one of them is lovely at least."
My mom, taken aback, continues on as if he hasn't spoken and serves him. He gets to my sister, the lovely one, and tells her she's beautiful and how does it feel to be the typical beautiful younger sister, and she gives him a basilisk stare and asks him if he wanted a bread roll. Entitled guy not wanting to hold up the line despite clearly wanting to carry on speaking to my sister and gets to me. Entitled guy looks at me and says he rates me about a 4 out of 10 and how awful it must be for me to have a 10 out of 10 looking sister. Now, I don't think I'm ugly, and I do think my sister is beautiful, but we look very different, She's very slim, athletic, tanned, with beach blonde hair with conker-colored eyes, whereas I am hourglass, pale skin, gray eyes, and heavily tattooed, so I'm aware I'm an acquired taste. I'm not offended he thinks my sister is beautiful. I think she's beautiful. However, I am offended that he thinks we want his assembly line commentary, especially when he looks like a human version of Seabiscuit. So I lean back and say, "You're the guy without a date, right?" I can see my mom twitching, like, "Please, for the love of God, don't be too harsh." He's grinning at me with his friends, all proud of himself, and I say, "I wonder which one it is, if it's your lack of manners, looks, or personality that stopped you from getting a date when everyone else has one." Pausing to put some food on his plate, I hand it back to him and smile. I imagine it's all three. Also, despite being a 4, I've never not had a date for a function. Have a good day now. I never got to hear his response as the line needed to get moving. However, Seabiscuit's smile is now gone. Such a shame, and I didn't get told off by my mom. Winning. Maybe now he'll have a better approach to women. I doubt it though. I don't work here. My clothes are nowhere near correct. So about 10 years ago, my friend and I go into a Best Buy so he can look at a TV he pre-ordered. I'm wearing a black Slayer t-shirt and some jeans, and he's waiting in line at customer service. I decide to wander around a bit. I'm looking at the fridges. I was bored and was just looking when a man in his mid-40s walks up and asks me if I can help him buy some stove. I look at him and politely tell him, "Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. I don't work here." I go back to just looking at some freezers when I hear him cough really loudly.
Hey boy, I said I need help. Do you want your commission or not?
I look up at him and said, "I don't work here, man," and I wave my hand around my shirt. At this point, he's super angry and says to me,
How about I go get a manager?
and I lose my crap because I've had it with this guy. I said, "Yeah, go grab him. Maybe he can help you because your head is so far gone." My voice must be muffled. I don't work here. I am not even remotely dressed as an employee, bro. So he leaves and I wander over to the gaming section where a burly man in a blue Best Buy shirt and that guy come walking over. Employee.
Is everything okay over here?
Guy.
See, that's the guy. Not such a tough guy now since I got your boss, huh?
Employee. Sir, I'm not his boss. He doesn't work here. He has a Slayer t-shirt on. That should have been a dead giveaway. Guy.
But he looks like an employee.
Nope, not even close.
Well, what are you going to do for me?
Employee. How about this? I don't remove you from the store for harassing another customer and you can finish shopping without further trouble. Is that doing something for you? Guy glared at me for like forever until the Best Buy guy gave up and asked him to leave. Karen demands I kick out her ex-boyfriend. My husband, 48 male, Tom, and I, 42 female, have 3 kids. About 3.5 years ago, our oldest, Taylor, 17 female, started dating Rob, 19 female. I know they were young, but Rob is a really nice kid and treated my daughter well. Right after they met, Rob's parents got divorced. As a result of this, his dad moved to the other side of the country and his mother began to struggle with mental health. His 2 younger siblings went to live with his grandparents, but they did not have room for Rob, so he was going to have to live with his dad. He was devastated to leave his hometown, Taylor and his friends. Taylor and Rob asked us if Rob could move into our in-law apartment. We spoke with Taylor privately and asked if Rob was pressuring her into allowing him to move in, and she said no, it was her idea. We also told her to think really hard about it because once we agreed to take him in, we would be responsible for him, and that would mean he would be staying with us as long as he needed. She thought about it for a few days and then said it would be okay no matter what. She's usually a level-headed kid, so we thought we had made the consequences of this decision clear. We thought about it for a bit and after setting some ground rules, agreed to allow him to live in the apartment. The apartment is a fully separate unit with its own utilities and kitchen and bathroom. The unit is separate but does have hotel-style adjoining room set of doors. We decided not to charge Rob any rent or utilities in exchange for following a certain set of rules. In the beginning, Rob was not allowed to have guests to the apartment, including Taylor. We did not let him set up the living space, and instead, they would have to use the main part of the house to hang out together. Rob was always welcome to have meals with us, and we treated him like another member of our family. Rob is now finishing up his first year of a local college, and Taylor is a senior in high school. 5 months ago, Taylor and Rob broke up, and she started dating Joe, 18 male, almost immediately. Since the breakup, Rob usually stays in his place and only occasionally comes over to help my husband with various household chores. A week ago, Taylor came to us and told us that Rob's presence is making Joe uncomfortable and that we need to ask him to leave. We said no to kicking him out, but we said we would set up some new rules that would make everyone more comfortable. We said that from now on, Rob would use the living space in the apartment and would have to call before coming over. Taylor said Joe is still unhappy about this, and the only thing that will make him happy is for Rob to be gone. I might be the jerk because I told Taylor that this was obviously between her and her boyfriend, and the one solution is not tossing someone out on the street. She got even more upset with me and said I was ruining her senior year, and she might end up dateless for prom if Joe breaks up with her. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you kick out Rob or not? Please let us know.
Oh, I can't wait to read your comments on this one.
Am I the jerk for revealing we're rich when my wife constantly tells people that we're broke and makes me look bad with money? I, 31 male, have been with my wife, 30 female, for 10 years now, and she's always had this habit of making me look bad with our finances. Whenever anything regarding spending money comes up, she will always say how broke we are, and she doesn't have the money to do this or buy that. The thing is, we're doing well financially. We have decent jobs, and combined, our salary is roughly $125K per year. As of today, our net worth is more than $1 million, but less than $2 million. I had saved and invested a lot before getting married, so I gave us a good head start. I control the finances and take the lead, but we both agreed to living a very modest life. We both have our cars from college, for example, Honda and Toyota. She knows everything about our finances because at least once a month I go over it with her every time I deposit money in our investment accounts or our kids' college funds. For banking, we have an emergency fund and I budget everything else to go straight into investments. We basically stay right at $10,000 in our bank savings account and $500 in our checking account after bills. Edit. Most of the time there's more than $500 in our checkings, but once I pay our credit card each month, I then move anything extra. We always use the credit card, so it's not like we only have $500 to spend. Our credit card limit is $25,000. A few months ago, we had dinner with her friends, and they talked about buying a new car. My wife said something like, "I wish we could get a new car, but I'm always broke after paying the bills. We still have our college cars." Edit. Wife does not want a new car. She will go on to talk about if she had money what she would want to buy, and it always makes me feel ashamed. This "I'm broke" story has been happening for years. When we were driving home, I asked her about it. She understood we have the money, but it's how she feels because our bank account is always low. I said I can increase our budget or keep more money in our bank if she wants. Since we are doing well, I'm okay with spending more. She said no and again was happy with our finances. I explained that when she says we are broke, it makes me look bad and I feel ashamed. It's as though I can't provide for the family and/or I'm bad with money. She doesn't see it that way. The same conversation has come up numerous times about us being broke. Recently, I reminded her numerous times it makes me feel and look bad in front of friends and family. I told her if she keeps saying stuff like that, I will reveal that we are doing well with money. I gave her a few reminders I'd eventually do this, but she kept going with the "I'm broke" story. At a dinner with her sister and parents, the same "I'm broke" story came up. I piped in and said, "It's weird to hear a millionaire say they're broke." My wife said, "Haha, I'm not though." And I quickly say, "We are millionaires and you know that. We go over our finances every month." Well, the "I'm broke" story stopped after that and the night went on as usual. A little later, the same thing happens with our friends and I use the same line. Now my wife is mad at me for using that line and revealing roughly how much money we have. She said it seems like I'm gloating. I say it's better than making me look like I'm running us into the ground financially. So, am I the jerk for revealing our net worth when my wife says we are broke? Edit. Final update for now as we have a long weekend planned. Some key points I saw a lot of people talking about and wanted to give answers. I'm pretty open to us spending money and I don't restrict her spending. She has the credit card to spend money monthly. Most of the month we have far more than $500 in our checking, but I move anything above to our investments once I pay the credit card each month. I know I won't have any big expenses then. If I do, we have the credit card limit and the $10,000 emergency cash. We live in a really cheap area and have a low cost of living. We never felt the need to upgrade until we wanted to start having kids. I didn't have to change our lifestyle much to save a lot. My job is in demand and pays well because nobody wants to live out in my area. So after expenses, I take home a lot more than I would living in a major city. Probably 3 to 4 times more net savings annually if I had to guess. She doesn't want a new car and has told me that multiple times. She doesn't like driving and feels comfortable with her current car. She doesn't know what she wants to do when she retires. I know I'll be golfing, games, and eating treats most days. I don't do any of this much now because we have kids, and they will be my focus for a long time. I maybe golf 1 or 2 times a month, and that's the only time I have my treats. I'll speak more with my wife about this. After reading posts, I think she may not feel like it's her money since she never saved much before we got engaged. Well, who do you agree with? OP or his wife? Please let us know.
Speaking of finances, you need to take me shopping, Reddit boy. I'm tired of wearing the same thing every day.
Entitled mom tries to force me to let her kid try my trumpet during lockdown. Context: I am a trumpetist in a local orchestra, and I need to go to rehearsals in another district every week. I live in a city that is very large geographically, and getting to a different district is like going to another city, and it takes around 1 hour on light rail train that acts as a commuter rail in my city. I get on the train at a terminal station, so there's usually a seat next to the glass separator thingy that I can lean on and take a nap. The reason why I'm making this post is also the reason why I didn't get to take a nap on my way to rehearsal today. As usual, I got in pretty early and found an ideal seat and sat down. Cue entitled mom and her son. The kid being a kid is obvious. He got curious about the case that I keep on my lap. He asked me what was in the case. I told him about the trumpet and the orchestra and whatnot, and he asked me to show it to him. I was fine with that. As long as I'm careful not to drop it, it's not a big deal at all. Well, it all went downhill from there. The kid asked to try it and play it. Obviously, I said no. We were on a train after all, and although I doubt he would make a sound having not learned how to use the mouthpiece, I don't want to risk it. It's also just not hygienic to share a mouthpiece, something that you literally put your lips on with a total stranger, especially during lockdown. Kids being kids, he obviously got loud, and entitled mom being entitled mom obviously was determined to get her little precious whatever he wants. Entitled mom, who's sitting on the opposite side from me, people sit sideways on this kind of train, asks me nicely,
Hey, what's the big deal with letting the kid play with your trumpet?
At this point, I was already triggered. I had to stay as calm as possible. You see, ma'am, points to the 2 mouthpieces that I have. We blow into this, and it's a bit unhygienic to share mouthpieces.
You've got 2 of them. Just use the other one.
I use both of them. These 2 are for different purposes.
Oh, quit being sophisticated. It's just a toy.
I'm already mad at this point. I got into a decent music college with trumpet playing, and I get paid for playing for the orchestra. It's obviously not a toy. Not for me. Ma'am, I play this trumpet in an orchestra for a part-time job. I wouldn't.
Like music is a real job. Don't take yourself too seriously. Music isn't an actual job that you can feed on.
She's getting pretty loud at this point. Her kid started to cry, and people around who don't know what happened stared at me as if I'm the bad guy.
You music students are truly spoiled, she continued. Good kids study math and physics and economy. Hobos study music and art.
I get paid what's equivalent to $300 per month for this, which is a decent amount for a part-time job where I live. I save those for college. I'm sure you work a decent job as well, but I wouldn't exactly call myself a hobo.
Did you just talk back to me without using
honorific form of the word you in my language? Yes, I did. At that point, I didn't want her to think I respected her or her words. I stopped talking to her, closed up the case, and left the seat. She started literally yelling at me.
Is that how you treat a person from an older generation from you at home? Unbelievable.
Well, it gets even better from here. She grabbed my headphone cord and ripped them out of my ear. I was wearing it the whole time during this conversation because it sucks at soundproofing. She grabbed onto it and demanded me to apologize. No way in heck I was going to. It's my station. Let go of the headphones or I'm going to call security. We have security staff on the trains, and usually they help elderly people getting on and off, stop people from smoking, etc. She did not let go. I didn't even need to call the security guy. He saw what was happening and demanded the lady and her kid to leave the train on the next stop. I finally got peace and got off one station later than where I usually get off, just so I wouldn't be getting off at the same station with her. The station I got off at wasn't much further to the place we were rehearsing at, and the extra few cents for going slightly further definitely was worth it. Speaking of musical instruments, do you play any instruments? And if so, which ones? Please let us know.
Oh, I love playing the marimba.
I see what you did there. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my husband throw a barbecue party for his friends? So, my husband likes to invite his friends, note his friends, I'm not close with them, for barbecue parties. He prides himself on his barbecue skills. The thing is, I always end up doing everything. He buys and preps the meat and then grills and serves it, and collects praise for his barbecue skills. I have to buy drinks, get out enough dishes, clean up the patio and deck. Non-native speaker, I don't know which one to use. I prepare the sides and veggies, I refill the drinks and take away dishes. We don't use paper plates or plastic cups since I find it wasteful, so as to keep the main table tidy. It's just non-stop work for me. He just told me last week that he invited his friends for Saturday, so yesterday. Just announced it, didn't ask me. I said, well, okay. Do I know anyone? Nope, those are his workmates and they won't be bringing their spouses. My husband called it a guys' night. I said, okay then, guys' night. Well, enjoy yourselves. I will be in my craft room working on some of my projects and drinking wine. He said he will handle it. Spoiler alert, he did not handle it. He got the meat all right, but just ignored any other preparation, and I was just so sick and tired of being taken for granted. He never asks me for help, I just do stuff. So I didn't do anything. The patio was a mess, the upholstery of the garden furniture was all messy from our dogs, the table wasn't wiped down, there was stuff lying all around. His friends arrived, I welcomed them, and then excused myself to my crafts room, put some music on and worked. Cue the messages. He starts asking for stuff, like where are the plates? We only keep a small set in the kitchen, the rest is in the basement. Where are the cups? Why isn't the beer chilled? Where is the non-alcoholic beer? Did I not buy it? Where are the sides? I just replied that he said he would handle it himself. Edit. This is also where I feel I might have been the jerk. It would have taken me just minutes to at least tell him where the stuff is. I checked on the guys a few hours later and it was a disaster. Table all cluttered. They ordered some takeout as sides. There weren't enough dishes or silverware. Someone had to go drive for drinks. On Sunday, today, he was all grumpy and actually told me that he is disappointed that I didn't pull my weight and that I made our family look sloppy and bad. I told him that I'm not his little housewife and that he's a big guy, and if he embarrassed himself in front of his workmates, that's all on him, and that I'm glad that he can see at least a tiny bit of work that I do around the house. He got upset and went for a run to let off some steam. Oh, and the patio is full of dishes. He didn't even clean the grill. I'm not touching anything. Edit update. Thank you for the comments. This made me realize I am at fault as well for tolerating this for so long. I went out to clear my head. My husband came back from his run and is pointedly not speaking to me and reconsider many things in our marriage. Edit update 2. Maybe a similar story was posted before. Apparently, more husbands are jerks. Keep wasting police time over petty arguments? Lose almost half of your garden. Alright guys, this story is about the neighbor from heck. We will be calling him Steve. Don't even know his real name. So Steve is always calling the cops over petty things. My family has lived here for 7 or 8 years now, and he calls the police once every couple of years. The first time was when his kids were outside around 10:30 p.m. on a Friday night, and my dogs were barking because they were screaming and generally just being loud. The next time was because one of his chickens had been hurt by an animal, most likely a fox or a coyote or even a stray cat. He claimed that one of my dogs somehow got through the locked doggy door and escaped through the fence to eat his chicken. The responding officer asked if he saw it happen, and Steve told him that he did not, but that he just knew it was our dog, to which the officer laughed in his face. The third time was because my uncle got caught in the snow, so he reversed rather quickly and tore up some of Steve's grass in the process. A land surveyor that was court-ordered showed up and determined that not only was it not his lawn, but he had his chicken coop and half of his garden on our property. We didn't care about the chickens and garden simply because our houses are separated by a creek, and the chickens and garden were located on his side of the creek. He recently called the cops again because my boyfriend was playing with a laser pointer and acting like a stormtrooper. He was not aiming it at people's homes, but it just so happened he momentarily flashed it into Steve's window. Steve came to our house and threatened my dad, getting in his face and acting like he was going to swing. Well, my family decided enough was enough. We have started building a fence, and we started right on his side of the creek. Steve heard us bright and early hammering away and came outside in his boxers and a pair of slippers. He told us he would call the cops and have us arrested for trespassing, except we were still on our property line. So my dad showed him the house plan and pointed to the pegs the surveyor put down that showed our property lines. He stood there for an hour screaming at me, my brothers, my boyfriend, and another neighbor as we all worked until we got to his garden. He was so mad when he realized we were going to fence right on through it. He ran to move his chicken coop, though we never were going to take his chickens because pets are family. He did call the cops afterwards, and they didn't even show up because it was our land, and technically he was the one damaging our property. We just finished that side of the fence Sunday afternoon after a couple days of work. Now we will have carrots, tomatoes, squash, and an abundance of strawberries, as well as an apple tree that we didn't know existed, and an in-ground fire pit he was using to burn trash. In addition, now his kids can't shoot pellets and BBs at us and our dogs. Take that, Steve. Neighbor slashes our tire. This happened just a couple of months ago, and I thought I'd share it with you guys. We've got entitled neighbor and we've got awesome neighbor. Some context. Where I live, houses don't typically have driveways. If you have a parking garage in your house, the street parking space in front of you is considered yours as well, and not legal for someone else to park on without your permission. If you don't have a garage though, that street parking space is considered public, and anyone has the right to park on it anytime. The only instance in which it's not legal to leave a car in a public space is if you're using it to abandon the vehicle, leaving it there for a ridiculous long amount of time without moving it. Now to the story. I used to live in a small apartment complex. There were 6 apartments distributed between 2 floors. None of them had a garage. I didn't used to have a car until my boyfriend moved in, so I had never really paid attention to parking spaces. When he moved in, he started leaving his car in front of the apartments, on the very legal first come, first served spaces. Well, 2 of the downstairs neighbors seemed to believe that since we were living upstairs, we were stealing their places because they were in front of their apartments and they should have them for themselves. Not sure how they wanted us to park up in the air. We had that discussion with them multiple times, told them to get a government permit to make it exclusive and rightfully theirs, and we would stop parking there. Those permits are crazy expensive. They didn't get them, we kept parking there. One night we go out, get in the car, and realize that one tire has been slashed. Really weird, but we just change it without adding 2 and 2 together. The next day, awesome neighbor tells us that police officers had attended a report of an abandoned car, our car. Apparently, entitled neighbor thought it would be really clever to slash our tire to make the car look abandoned and then open an abandoned car report on it. This way, police would come out and tow our car, freeing up the space and costing us a lot of money in the process. When we looked up the report, the guy had said we hadn't moved our car in months. We moved it at least 3 times a week. Since awesome neighbor saw the officers inspecting our car, he went down to talk to them and explained that the car belonged to us, that we had it in constant use, and the report was fake. It helped a lot that we had changed our tire right away before police went to check it out. The most frustrating part about this is that entitled neighbor would come up with multiple trash cars that barely moved all the time, and he would take up 5, 6, or 7 street parking spaces at a time. So he did understand the concept of public parking, he just believed everyone should give up their parking rights to him. We tried talking to him after the incident, and he was way too coward to face us, instead sending his wife, who told us we needed to have empathy for him. Anyways, now we have moved to a place with assigned parking per apartment, and so far, no entitled neighbors around. I tried to make up a way out, I really did. Once again, pulling from the very deep well that is my time as a supervisor for a major cable TV/internet company. This takes place around 2006, where I've just received a transfer from one of our agents. We have a customer that insisted on a supervisor the instant they call in. Those can be annoying, but also have the potential to be fun. Here we go. This guy starts off by spending the first 10 minutes giving me crap because his wife tried to call in earlier for help, and we wouldn't help her because her name wasn't on the account. Well, that's policy, and no amount of, "You should know she's allowed because she's my wife," will change that. It's just a full-on rant about how dumb our policies and agents are for causing him all this trouble of having to call in with her, over and over in a circular complaint. Eventually, I finally get the info I need into the account, including security verification from him.
Now my wife's trying to install that free antivirus you guys have on your website, but it says it needs the company email address to do it. I don't have one of those, so you need to figure out how to make it work. She's right here on the line with me, and we're both staying here until we get this program installed.
Yes, we were giving away an antivirus program, or at least a year of it, free to our customers in some partnership with one of the bigger companies in that field. Sir, you do have one of those. It's created by when you first sign up, but that was a few years ago, so you might not remember it. That's no problem. I'll look it up for you.
I don't remember signing up for that. You guys probably messed it up somewhere.
Like I said, no big deal at all. I'll help you through, and you can change it if you want, or never use it again after this, or whatever you want. Now, I found it, and it does say it was set up by the customer, and it looks like it's been used a lot, just not in a year or so. For security reasons though, I shouldn't give it to you while she's still on the line. Could you possibly have her leave the line for just a few seconds? This is not true, but you'll see why I tried.
I told you already. She's my wife. She can do whatever she wants with this account. Can't anybody there listen and do their job? She's got a pen right here and she'll write it down. And then we'll see about installing the antivirus.
You're sure I should say your address out loud while she's on the phone?
Yes, this is getting ridiculous. You know that? Just tell us.
Okay. The address you said on this account is secret gay looking for more at companyname.net. Not the actual address. I tamed it down a bit for Reddit. His wife's voice for the first time of the call. Again? Are you? And right there, the call drops. I forgot to save the account number so I could look it up later and see if anything more happened. But I can imagine. Negative attitude not needed. To set this up, I used to work as a manager for a construction company that primarily took jobs in the public sector. Think government sites, universities, police buildings, etc. The owners were cheap, like to a fault. I had previously pointed out some issues with using certain materials that were subpar or weren't standard for our jobs so that the owners could beef up their profit margin. I was told to be more of a team player and was basically shuffled off to other small, dead-end jobs. I continued pointing out issues on jobs and eventually was let go and told to take my negative attitude somewhere else. So I did. Well, before my departure, during my last month, I was working in the office and noticed the company had put all of their eggs into one basket and were bidding on multiple jobs at a university campus nearby. Shortly after I was let go, a manager whom I used to work with, who now worked for that particular university, got in contact with me and offered me a job as a construction compliance officer. Part of my job was to rewrite their very old and outdated construction specifications. I rewrote them all and made sure to include very precise wording as this was considered a legal document as they were part of the tender contract. As you can guess, these specifications were included in all contracts going forward, including the 5 that were awarded to my previous employer. Being a compliance officer, I'm not involved in the tender, bidding, or awarding process for contracts, so they had no idea I was watching their projects. Fast forward 6 months, and I've been by their sites, all of them, and they had continued to use their shortcuts and subpar materials. But this time, they were in violation of their contract. We had a progress meeting over Zoom for one of their jobs, and I sat quietly, with my video off, until the point at which I was asked for my report. Their faces were priceless when I turned my video on and introduced myself. I outlined, in detail, all of their shortcuts and deficiencies. The project manager, who was one of the ones that had a hand in my firing, argued that there were no issues with them using these materials and methods, and
"That's how we've always done it,"
which was a perfect answer. I had their contract and had highlighted the part outlining the compliance with their own specifications as code. There was also a clause included stating if they didn't comply, they would not be paid their final 20% of the contract, which was basically their entire profit margin. Also, since they had said it was how they always did their work, we investigated all their sites and had them remove all their material that were in violation of the contract and fix the deficiencies at their cost. Fallout. Someone that I keep in contact with at that company told me they ended up losing money overall on all their jobs with us, and they ended up firing the entire management team, including the project manager that had a hand in my firing. Although I don't like to see people lose their livelihoods, these people should never have been in their positions. Sometimes you just have to take your negative attitude somewhere it's appreciated. Am I the jerk for not wanting to change my last name to my husband's to-be? Info. I'm an American citizen now, but not American born. Have dual citizenship. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 5.5 years. Back in January, he proposed and I said yes. Everything was great and we were really happy. 20 days ago, we were discussing where to go for our honeymoon, and then he said, right after we get back, you should go and have your name changed. And I asked, my name changed? What do you mean? He said since I was becoming Mrs., his last name, I had to have my name changed legally. And I said, no. Here's where the argument began. I told him I don't want to change my name. I understand this is customary in the US, but it isn't where I grew up, and I'm happy with my family name. I don't want to change it. I also told him that even if I wanted to, legally, my country of origin only allows very specific cases in which you can change your surname, and marriage isn't one of them. He thinks I'm making it up and also said that isn't true because I'm an American citizen, that I should change my American name. I haven't resigned to my first citizenship, and honestly, carrying 2 passports with different names sounds like problems waiting to happen. I proposed what I felt was a middle ground option, to hyphenate my surname, but he says that's not what he wants. He wants me to change my name full stop. The reason? This is what every woman in my family has always done. And at the very end, he throws, I'm sure you would have done it for your ex, and this was really unexpected to me. Ex-boyfriend and I broke up in 2013 and never got back together, and boyfriend had never made any comments like this before. He had never seemed jealous about him or anything. I've made many attempts to talk to him about the whole surname thing, about ex-boyfriend, which I still don't get, and overall because I feel there's more here than just a name change, but he won't talk to me at all. He has only spoken to say 2 things. 1, he regrets telling me anything, because if he had waited until after we got married, I would have had to do it. And 2, he's not talking to me until I stop this and agree to change my name. 20 days have passed at this point, and I'm becoming impatient. I would have understood 2 days, maybe, to cool off and abstain from saying things you don't mean just because you're angry, but 20 days seems too many. It always makes me wonder if this is a preview of what awaits in our marriage. Whenever we disagree, he's going to stop all communication until I give up and do what he wants. I'm no relationship expert, but that sounds like manipulation. To be honest, I'm not even sure I want to marry him at all now, but maybe I'm being too dramatic. Of course, his family thinks I'm a jerk, and my friends are split. Some think he's being childish and borderline manipulative. Others think since I'm in the US, I should accommodate to what is customary here. So, Reddit, am I the jerk? My Karen wife thinks she's the boss. For starters, I'm male 41, and my wife, female 39, and I have been together for 16 years. When she met me, I was at the height of my business and started to go up from there. Even during the lockdown, my business is still booming. I had my own house that I lived in by myself, a couple of cars, and a cottage, although that is unrelated. I own my own factory refurbishing various re-engineered equipment, mostly HVAC stuff. About 3 years after we got married, she decided she had enough working odd jobs and making not so great money at it. So she expressed she wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. I had no problem with this. We don't have kids and don't plan on having any, so I saw this as a win-win as she got to stay home and I came home to a nice house. After 3 years of this, she was tired of being a stay-at-home wife and wanted to rejoin the workforce. Since she could really only find odd jobs, I suggested she work at my shop. I pretty much created a job for her doing small admin stuff. Nothing crazy, as I used to do all this by myself, plus work on the floor, but this took a load off of my shoulders. Obviously, she got paid a healthy wage for her work, and I hired a cleaner to come in once a week to help us clean and maintain the house. On to the problem. One of my workers accidentally ordered 20 of one part instead of 2. This was a bit of a big deal, as now instead of being out a few $100s, I'm now out thousands. While I wasn't royally upset, this did put a large dent in my overhead, so I had to offload these parts. Barely made my money back, but that's besides the point. My wife, however, found out and absolutely berated this poor guy. I've had this guy work for me for over 10 years now, and his work is solid. He's a hardworking man, 2 kids, another on the way, and he's become my go-to guy for almost anything. I didn't hear any of the situation until I heard screaming from my wife that she was going to fire him, and he cost her hours of rework and budgeting, etc. This is simply not true, as 2 phone calls and some editing on our books and everything would be right as rain. Tops a 1-hour affair. She and he finally filled me in, and I told her to leave the room so I could talk to him. She refused. I asked again, and once again she refused. I asked one more time, and my worker was on the verge of tears, and I yelled at her and told her, "You're not the boss. I am. I make these decisions. Now leave." I talked it over with him. We made amends as it was an honest mistake, and he hasn't made a mistake like that since he started, so I'm not concerned about it happening again. My wife was livid, and after yelling about his mistake, she's refused to talk to me. I'm clearly in the doghouse here, but I refuse to think I did anything wrong, as she was, in my opinion, being needlessly unreasonable and on a power trip. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know.
I think I would have fired her, to be honest.
You want to handle the rush hour alone? Be my guest. So this happened in 2018 when I was working at a KFC outlet in the UK. Anybody who has worked fast food knows that there are times when the rush hour gets really hectic, especially if your franchise is on a busy street. I worked at this place on the weekends because it was the busiest time for the store and the only time I could take out from uni studies. At our busiest, we dealt with about 1,000 customers in a 12-hour workday, and about half of them being in these rush hour slots. I was part of the front of house staff, which meant my job was to take orders, deal with and listen to the customers' questions and complaints, pack their orders, make ice cream/shakes, and hand them out as well. At any given time, I was doing 1, 2, or all of these jobs together. Since we would get so busy, we had always aimed to have about 2 people on the registers, 2 people packing, and 1 person specifically for handing out the orders by calling out the order number on the receipt. The handing out the orders job was the easiest part and involved literally just standing there, which is why most of our staff used to work that station when they were tired, myself included. Fast forward to 4 months into the job, and one of our old staff members, we'll call her Lisa, comes back to join the team again. She had been working there before I had joined, and so knew everyone beforehand. She was also kind of pretty, and this will be important later. Now before I proceed, I want to say that none of my coworkers had any issues with me, and that my boss loved my work. I was so well received at this job that when I left, they gifted me a guitar as a going away present. I had good English, and I'm very friendly, so I was immediately settled in. My coworkers even playfully nicknamed me Skinny and joked around with me all the time. However, Lisa didn't like that because she could see that I was the center of attention due to my hyper energy. One fine Saturday, I go into work and realize that I've been made responsible for the part of the front of house process, which is to yell out order numbers and give the customers their food, dealing with anything that might be wrong or missing. Fair enough. I had a really busy Friday and was hoping for something easy to do. I spent the first 6 hours of my shift doing this stuff, and after the staff for the first half of the day left, I decided to help the remaining staff out until our coworkers for the second half of the day came in. In comes Lisa for the second half of the day, and she's been made responsible for packing the orders, which is probably the most taxing job. This part of the workflow is so taxing that it always has at least 2 people handling that station. We were short-staffed that day, and so Lisa was tasked to do this job alone, which was probably not the best decision by my manager. However, since she had worked there before, he trusted her to get the job done. We also had a rotation for our posts, and it was her turn to handle that section that day. As if by some stroke of luck, rush hour started right as she came in, so she didn't even have time to prepare herself. What's even funnier is that she came in with a bad mood, so she definitely didn't want to work that day. Now, one important detail here is that we have a large screen right above the packing section that the customers can see, which displays their orders and details of their order, and the order number displayed on it. Customers can have a look at that and be patient as they wait for their orders to be rolled out. Once an order is successfully completed, the order disappears from the screen, allowing the rest of the orders to be bumped up the priority list. This screen also had a timer on each order, which would under no circumstances be allowed to go over 7 minutes. If that happens, the timer turns red, alerting us to work faster. Usually, this screen is not supposed to go beyond 7 orders at a time, but it has enough functionality to display up to 15 orders. Now, Lisa was trying her best, but as the rush hour increased, the amount of orders waiting went up exponentially and the customers started to line up. The screen went beyond 15 orders waiting with red plastered all over it, and at this point, it was obvious Lisa couldn't handle the packing section alone. One of my coworkers nudged me to go and help her out, since I was basically doing the easiest job just standing around. I decided this was for the best, and so I walked up and started packing orders next to her. As I did so, she stopped doing the packing, looked at me dead in the eyes, and with the most threatening look said, "Go do your own job." I tried to be nice as usual and explained to her kindly how crowded it was getting, but it was obvious that she didn't want to listen. Not wanting business to be affected, I decided to go alert my manager. But just as I was about to go ask him for some advice, she says in the most condescending tone,
I don't know why you're trying so hard to work next to me, but it's honestly creepy and you should stop.
Now, I will admit I'm an average-looking guy, definitely not in her league, but she was under some sort of misconception that I had somehow developed feelings for her. She was probably used to guys running after her and placed me in the same row without even getting to know me, which I found incredibly disrespectful. When I realized that that was how she thought of me, all of my will to want to help her flew right out of the window. I casually walked back to my station and grinned, knowing what was about to unfold. In the next 30 minutes, the screen was now full with about 40 orders waiting. In fact, there were so many orders waiting that you couldn't even see half of them on the screen because they were so down on the list. Customers were standing around disgruntled and hungry, looking at Lisa as she was packing, running around trying to do everything by herself. My coworkers had seen how she had treated me, and so none of them approached to help her out. She was all over the place with the orders, chucking the bags in the air towards me, dropping fries on the floor, missing items, and the customers were complaining to high heaven at this service. I mean, even by fast food standards, this was bad. Since I was the one handing out the orders, I was hearing all the complaints and trying to sedate the customers as much as possible with the biggest smile on my face. It was pretty bad, and the only time I had ever had fun listening to people complain. What made it better was that the customers knew I wasn't to blame, and so we silently judged Lisa together as we watched her run around in a frenzy. Making casual trips to the back as Lisa was visibly shedding her hair out of stress was the best part because I was just doing my job, whilst Lisa was halting the entire business by herself. Lisa just dropped some fries on the floor. We're gonna need a new badge. That burger that Lisa just sent out, she put it in the wrong customer's bag, and they've just come back demanding a refund. A customer is complaining that the food is cold and wants a fresh burger. The thing is, the back-of-house staff were doing all of their work on time, so cold food and the like was not their problem. But because Lisa was messing up, they had to follow and remake the food, which meant wasting materials and also a bad mood, as they had to work extra for no reason. That's when my assistant manager, whom I was really good friends with, ran out to the front and asked in a concerned voice, "What's going on? Why aren't you helping her out?" I explained casually what Lisa had told me after I had tried really hard to help, loud enough so that the customers could hear, and you could tell by the look on my manager's face that this wasn't his first rodeo with Lisa. Dejectedly and quietly, he turned around and started helping Lisa to pack without saying another word to me. What made it even sweeter was that after about 5 minutes, another senior member of staff came to the front and chucked Lisa out of her situation and towards the back-of-house staff because she was being such a hindrance. In about 10 minutes, all orders were cleared and the dust had settled. I was then tasked with handling the packing because I was the fastest at doing so, whilst Lisa had to prep burgers in the back over the smoldering heat of the fryer, which probably melted off all of her makeup on her pretty little face. Imagine all the crap she was getting from the manager, and the embarrassment she had just faced in front of an entire crowd of people was probably just the most satisfying feeling I've ever had. Not because I was happy she was struggling, but because I got back at her for thinking I was below her, just because she was a little bit better looking than I was. And the cherry on top was the fact that she had asked for this all by herself. Justice served, but the orders weren't. At one point, I even walked to the back to see how she was doing. I found her hunched over the fryer and couldn't tell if what was rolling down her face was sweat or tears. However, the look in her eyes was the most delicious treat ever. Needless to say, Lisa never worked the packing section alone again and tried her best to get along with me after that fact. but I never helped her of my own volition unless she specifically asked me to. I didn't want her to feel creeped out after all. Have you ever known anyone like Lisa? If so, what did you think of them? Please let us know.
We've all known someone like Lisa. As the years go on and her looks fade, everyone realizes just how shallow and empty she is on the inside.
Am I the jerk for having my wedding ceremony in sign language? I'm 24, female, deaf, and growing up, my parents got me bilateral cochlear implants and forced me into mainstream school. Never taught me sign language and never immersed me into my culture as a deaf person. They were actually pretty against me using American Sign Language at all. Well, I took American Sign Language in high school against my parents' wishes and then got into a deaf university. Although I couldn't sign fluently when I started, I finally felt accepted and understood. The deaf community was nothing but welcoming. I became fluent in American Sign Language after a few months and stopped wearing my processors completely, as there was no need for them anymore. I honestly didn't realize how alone I had felt until I didn't feel that way anymore. I also met my fiance at college. He's from a very large family of deaf people. Everyone he knows, even in his far extended family, is deaf. HOH, CODA, or SODA, and everyone is fluent in sign. I love his family so much. We've been together for 4 years now. He proposed last May. We've been planning the wedding and decided to have it fully in American Sign Language. The pastor at our church's deaf program agreed to do the ceremony. My extended family of hearing people is very small. Just my mom, my dad, my sister, my brothers, my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin. My cousin is learning sign. Whereas my fiance's huge extended family, who are all deaf or sign fluently, will be there, and most of our friends are deaf or no sign. We decided to get an interpreter for the hearing people though, so they'd know what was going on. Our wedding is in August, so we just sent the invites. The invite mentions that it will be in American Sign Language, but will have an interpreter for those who are signing impaired, which is kinda just a joke. But my mom started texting me and tried to convince me that it should be in English and have an ASL interpreter. I feel like it's our wedding, so we should have it in our first language, but my mom thinks that we are in America, so English should be the first language, and anyone who doesn't choose to get cured, get an implant, should get an interpreter. She also said it was disrespectful to say signing impaired. I don't think she realizes the irony, as she always refers to me as hearing impaired. During the entire conversation, she kept repeating that,
I should have never let you go to that school.
My mom also says that deaf people should be used to having interpreters, whereas she's never had one before, so it will make it hard to understand. Am I the jerk here? Should I just have the ceremony in English? Because I guess that's the more normal way of communication, even though we consider sign our primary language? Edit to clarify some things. 1. I can't cut off my parents, as I'm currently helping pay for my little brother to go to school. 2. We can't sign and speak at the same time. The pastor and my fiance can't speak. I can, but choose not to unless I absolutely have to. 3. My parents didn't only not learn ASL, but they explicitly prevented me from it growing up. We lived in Austin, Texas my whole childhood, and there was a school for the deaf 10 minutes from our house, but they specifically said they would never let me go there. 4. Adding this later. Exact words from the invite, reception will be held in ASL. English interpreters will be provided for the signing impaired. I literally put it in quotations. 5. The deaf community didn't indoctrinate me into not wearing my processors. I just started using ASL more and more, and then I needed a surgery to adjust the implant, but I decided to just not get the surgery and stop wearing them. There was no real point in it, and I didn't feel like getting an unnecessary surgery. 6. Another edit. To those of you questioning and even mad at me for not wanting to wear implants, you don't hear normally. Like a lot of people say things like, do you want to hear music? Or birds chirping? Music through CIs sucks, at least for me. Even when I used to wear CIs all the time, I would take them off to listen to music. And no, background noise like birds chirping makes it harder for the microphone to pick up other noises like people talking. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or are her parents? Please let us know.
I'd tell Mom if she has such a problem with your wedding, perhaps she just doesn't need to attend.
This is what you get. Indeed. This is a little story from 2 years ago. I live on a very popular street where parking is difficult. There's a house with a parking space right on the street where I parked whenever I couldn't find anything else. One day I came to my car and noticed a small sheet of paper on my windshield. Obviously, the people living in that house told me not to park my car in front of their house because it's their property. I was confused because it's literally an official marked parking spot on the street, and they had their lots surrounded by a fence, which my car didn't block or anything. My friend works for the city council, and I asked her if that piece of the road is private property. She did some research and asked the people responsible for that matter, and she said no. I was allowed to park there, and it's not a private property. So I did. I parked my car there again. Of course, next day, piece of paper on my windshield, this time saying they would get my car towed. I ignored that. Nothing happened except more notes on my car that I just put back in their postbox. I talked to the neighbors, and they had a similar experience with that spot. That's probably why it was always unoccupied. The people living in that house had their own driveway. They didn't need that spot, so they just didn't like it if someone else parked in front of their house. One day I came to my car and noticed that someone had kicked off my side mirror, the one towards the fence. While I was busy picking up the glass from the street, the guy from the house came out and said something like,
Well, that's what you get.
I was fuming. I called the police and everything, but I couldn't prove anything. Okay, that was the point where my ideas kicked in. In my country, you can rent parking spots to park cars with advertisements on them. My friend's dad, the one that worked for the council, had a used car dealership and did that sort of advertising quite regularly. So I told him about what happened, and literally 2 days later on that parking spot was a car trailer with a huge sign. It was 3 times taller than my car. I was so happy. And he replaced my broken mirror. And then my time came. I saw the house owners in their garden fuming about the advert, and I approached them with, "Oh, that is what you get." The faces, they were priceless. They tried to get the trailer removed, but the spot was legally rented. And you know what? It's still there. Now there is still a lack of parking spaces in my street, but I think that it's worth it. I know you don't work here. I recognize your uniform. This is not the typical "I don't work here" ladies story, but it's basically the inverse. I thought it was entertaining enough to share here. The only bit of relevant background information is that I have a close friend who works for a company that goes into retail stores and takes inventory for them, so I recognize their uniforms. This happened in the spring of 2017. I had just gotten out of a doctor's appointment and went to a nearby chain pharmacy to drop off my prescription. They could fill it for me, but it would be a 20-minute wait. Since I had my infant with me at the time and he was sleeping in his carrier, I decided to pick up a few things for him there instead of making a separate stop at the grocery store after. While I was on the baby aisle, I saw a guy wearing the same uniform as my close friend kneeling down near the baby shampoo with a little machine in one hand that tells me he's counting items on that shelf. I walked up next to him and saw that he was standing in front of the item I needed and braced myself for things to get awkward. The following is our conversation. Me: "Excuse me, sir." Guy who doesn't work there:
I can't help you, ma'am. I don't work here. The employees in red polo shirts can help you.
Me: "Oh, I know you don't work here. I have a friend who works for the same company as you. I just need to get one of those bottles of purple baby shampoo on the bottom shelf in front of you." Guy:
Sure. The J&J one?
Me: "Yeah, that's the one." He picks up the bottle and hands it to me.
Here you go.
Me: "Thanks." Him:
You know, you're the first person who's recognized the uniform and listened when I said I don't work here in a really long time.
Me: "I'm not surprised. My friend has a lot of stories about customers who can't seem to tell the difference between your company's uniform and the uniform of the store he's working in." We chatted for a bit more while I worked my way down the aisle finishing up my shopping. I told him some of my friend's best "I don't work here" stories, and he shared some of his with me. Then they called my name for my prescription and we said goodbye, and I went to go get my medication and pay for my items. Am I the jerk for walking off in the middle of dinner? My friend was trying to set me, 27, male, up with one of her friends. Only reason I said yes was because she kept pushing us to go out and telling me she thinks we'd be a cute couple. So whatever, I gave in and we agreed to meet at this restaurant. Her choice, by the way. It was this Mexican restaurant and I've been there before. They make some really good enchiladas. The tables are spaced out because of lockdown, and obviously not a lot of seats available for people who want to eat, so we spent like 15 minutes waiting to get a table. This girl was already getting impatient, and literally the second we get a table, she's talking crap to the waitress who came to ask us what we want for drinks, about how they shouldn't be open if they're not able to cater to their customers. She was just being super rude to this lady for absolutely no reason. Funny thing was, she's being totally nice to me. First, she gave her crap because she brought ice in her drink, but she never asked for it to have no ice, which I pointed out to her, but she didn't want to believe me because she knows she asked for no ice. Then again, she got mad because there weren't any burgers on the menu. It's a Mexican restaurant. I told her if she wanted burgers, we could have gone to a place that serves burgers. But she claimed this place did serve burgers because she's been here before. Again, starts giving the waitress a hard time, and I tried hard not to let it get to me up until she called the waitress a really mean name and told her to do her job. At that point, I apologized to the waitress, then told the girl we're done here. I took out my wallet to pay for the drinks, also a tip for the waitress, and told her I'm not putting up with her BS anymore. This girl was calling for me, but I walked out of the restaurant and drove off. She came in a separate car, by the way, so it's not like she was left there stranded. My phone was blowing up. All of the messages from this girl, where I'm pretty much called her worst date and other names too. Then my friend was giving me a hard time because now she's embarrassed to be around this girl, knowing that I just walked off during our dinner. And she says I could have handled that better than acting like a complete jerk if I didn't like the way that she was acting. At least I could have been a gentleman and made it through the meal instead of humiliating her. I don't know, that stuff really bothers me. My mom was a waitress, and I'd be at her work all the time after school until her shift ended. Saw the way customers treated her sometimes, so I guess it was personal for me seeing how this girl was being. Not sure if I let my emotions get the best of me, and if I was in fact the jerk for the way I reacted. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the girl he went on the date with? Please let us know.
Hear me out, OP. I kind of think you're the jerk because you didn't whip out your phone and record how ridiculous she was acting. You know how much we love seeing those Karen videos on YouTube.
Am I the jerk for letting my best friend get engaged at my wedding and not my cousin? I got married about 2 months ago, and this is still a family argument, so I want y'all's opinion. This whole thing started a year-ish ago, last February when I got engaged. Lockdown obviously threw stuff off, but we did end up having lots of fun. Anyway, in July, not sure exactly when, but I think it was July, my best friend's boyfriend approached me. They've been dating for 5 years, and I've been best friends with my best friend for 15 years. So when he asked if he could propose at my wedding, I was really happy to share the joy with this amazing girl. We came up with a plan. He was incredibly respectful and told me that if at any time I decided I didn't want the proposal to happen at my wedding, he'd accept it. I told him it was no problem and that I was so excited for both of us. Speed up to 2 months ago, my wedding. It was socially distanced, only a few key people were there, masked up, etc., etc. After the ceremony, during the reception, the plan started. I think it was from some movie my best friend loves, but I'm not sure which one. So I'm tossing the bouquet, and I spin around and hand it to her instead of throwing it. He kneels down. It was all very cute. After this, we're celebrating. We're both excited. Everything seems to be going off without a hitch. I was actually so happy because so far the wedding had been going perfectly. 20 minutes later, my cousin's boyfriend goes up to the DJ, my little brother, and asks him for the mic. He takes it, asks my cousin to come up next to him, and I quickly realized what was going on. To be fully honest, I didn't want to share the day with my cousin. She's always been a bit of an attention hogger, and I knew she would make the day all about her. I walked to them, asked my cousin to step aside, and I explained to her boyfriend that I'd like him not to propose at my wedding. He gets incredibly upset, saying my friend got engaged, why shouldn't he be able to, etc. My cousin and aunt also got incredibly upset with me, saying it's not fair that my friend got engaged and she can't, and they're accusing me of being incredibly biased. Am I the jerk for not letting my cousin get engaged, but letting my best friend get engaged at my wedding? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
The only mistake OP made was inviting that stupid cousin anyway.
Customer's mother calls to complain that we wouldn't sell her daughter an item. My manager told me this story, so I'm going by what she told me. I work in a big grocery store as a full-time cashier, and customers are not adjusting to our new rules. We've blocked off all items that have been deemed non-essential. A lot of the time, though, people will ignore those barriers and take items off the shelf and then attempt to sneak through self-checkout with them. A lot of the time, they get caught. A lady in her 40s came into the store. She put items for a party, non-essential, in her cart and went to the checkout. My coworker told her right off the bat that she's not allowed to sell those items. The lady left her till and went to 3 different ones, hoping someone would ring her through. We all denied her. She left the checkout and circled the store so she wouldn't be seen going into self-checkout. She managed to pay for her items and left her card at the service desk so she could go to the bathroom. One of our front-end managers noticed all the birthday stuff in her cart and took it, so when the lady returned, she had to have everything refunded. She was mad, but took the refund. She left the service desk. After a little while, she came back through self-checkout again with the same stuff, hoping she could sneak through. One of the attendants caught her, and another front-end manager said if she cannot follow the rules, then she needs to leave. So she left, and we thought that was the end of it. Nope. I was sitting at the service desk on my mini break when the phone rings. My manager went over and answered. A woman on the phone says she needs to speak to a manager. The conversation goes as she has told me. Manager: I'm a manager, how can I help you? Lady: my daughter was just inside your store and you wouldn't sell her birthday candles. Manager: yes, that's correct. She tried 5 different times, but we're not allowed to sell them. Why the heck not? We need them. They're a non-essential item by the saying of the government. I truly cannot do anything about it. Why couldn't you make an exception? It was only candles. It wasn't. It was a bag full of birthday stuff. We can't make exceptions unless we're looking to get fired. This whole spiel went on for about 5 minutes, with the lady ultimately saying she wouldn't shop here again and that she wants to make a complaint, to which my manager said, if you want to make a complaint, you can call corporate, and hung up on this lady. Please just follow the rules. It makes all of our lives a little easier. No, my coffee is always free. This happened about 7 years ago when I was working at the local convenience store. We've got the crazy lady and we've got the coworker. I got in around my normal 11 p.m. time and settled in for a slow night of training with my coworker who was on his last day with the company. Things were quiet and going pretty smoothly until around 1 a.m. Steve and I were jamming to some classic rock, but turned it off when Karen enters. A small, frail-looking lady in about 20 jackets comes in carrying a duffel bag. She set the bag next to a shelf, which sat behind the register. I couldn't see the bag, so at first I didn't even notice it was behind me. Karen went straight to the self-serve coffee and pulled out a coffee mug from underneath one of her jackets. She seemed out of it, talking to herself and muttering under her breath, but I'd be out of it too at 1 a.m., so I let Karen just do her thing. Until her bag starts to bark. I'm confused as heck, since I hadn't seen her place down the bag and certainly didn't think there would be a dog inside. My coworker lets Karen know that we don't allow animals inside the store and she'll have to take him outside. This is as close as I can remember to what was said. Karen: but I don't have a dog. Coworker: lady, we can hear it barking. It wants out of the duffel bag. I'll let it out, but it's not my dog, just my bag. Coworker: well, regardless of who owns the dog, you brought it in, so you'll have to take it out. Fine, I'll just take my coffee and go then, since you don't want me here. Okay, so it'll be $1.50 for the coffee refill. Thanks for understanding. At this point, I can see Karen shaking with rage. Her eyes may have well rolled back into her head. No, my coffee is always free. Steve: no, it's not. All refills of drip coffee are $1.50. But he said I could have it for free. Take it up with the big man, not me. I get mine for free. Coworker: who are you talking about? There's just been my coworker and I. What big man? I don't want to say. That man upstairs. He told me. Coworker: lady, this is a 1-floor building. We don't have an upstairs. God told me in a dream that I could come here and always have free refills. Are you going to tell God no? At this point, my coworker had enough and told her just to go. But if she came back, we would call the police on her. I never saw her again. Well, in that store anyway. Dog seemed fine when she took it out of the duffel bag. It was a small Pomeranian. Entitled mom at Starbucks gets instant karma. This happened a while ago, and something reminded me of it today. Buckle in, it's a wild ride. At my job, we used to always rotate getting coffee for our team from the Starbucks down the street. I was oh so fortunate to have it be my turn on this day. Everyone placed their online orders, and when I arrived to pick up the order, the place was slammed. So I walked over to where you wait for online pickup orders. The barista, SB, who was there knows us since we go so often, and knows that it's a 1-cup holder for those same 4 names and drinks every time. He was super apologetic and explained that they were behind because they had gotten a sudden rush and were short-staffed. No problem, I can wait. While waiting, I decided to use the ladies' room, and when I came back, I see a drink holder with my order, and someone else grabbing it and carrying it to her table. I knew this was my order because it was the exact same combo of drinks we always got. Thinking it was an honest mistake, I approached this woman, entitled mom, and saw she had 2 daughters with her, sitting at the table. Entitled kid 1 is maybe around 4, and entitled kid 2 is probably closer to 8 or 9. This is where it gets weird. Note, they did not grab straws yet. Me: ma'am, I'm sorry, but I think you might have grabbed my order. Entitled Mom.
We are not waiting in that line.
And you clearly didn't want it.
Entitled Kid 2.
Yeah, finders keepers, losers weepers.
Me.
No. I went to the bathroom real quick while I was waiting, but that is definitely my order.
I could see the names on the side of the cups. Entitled Mom.
Well, how are my girls supposed to know what they want unless they get to try it first? These were just sitting up there with nobody claiming them, so they were abandoned. They should at least be allowed to sample them. Grab me some of those straws since you're just standing around.
Me.
So you're saying that I should either just give you my order or allow your kids to try them before taking them?
At this point, the barista has realized something is going on and comes over to the table. Barista.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but there seems to have been some sort of a mix-up. This is her order. If you can tell me the name on yours, I'd be happy to go get it for you.
We don't have an order yet. We want to try these first to see if we like them. And we need straws.
Barista.
That's not how this works. I'm sorry, but those are drinks that are already paid for by someone else. They aren't free samples. You'll need to place an order of your own.
Entitled Kid 1.
Mummy, I want the chocolate one.
Entitled Kid 2.
No, I want the chocolate one.
Entitled Mom.
See? My kids are thirsty, and that line is just way too long to wait in. Especially if they don't even know what they want.
Me. Realizes that the chocolate drink the kids are pointing at is literally 8 shots of espresso over ice with some almond milk and a drizzle of chocolate syrup. So I know they aren't going to like it and will probably freak out and not want anything. You know what? You're right. Asking you to wait like everyone else is just unacceptable. Go right ahead and try that one. I don't mind. At that point, the younger kid grabs the cup, removes the lid, takes a huge gulp, immediately gags, goes to put the cup back on the table, and spills it all over Entitled Mom. Entitled Mom grabs the kids and drags them out, screaming at us the whole time. I stuck around and helped the barista clean up the mess as I definitely contributed to it, and he remade the drink for me. When I got back to work, my coworkers asked if I got lost because I was gone for so long. That was probably the highlight of my week. Speaking of Starbucks, what's your favorite thing to get at Starbucks? Please let us know.
Caramel coconut frappuccino for the win.
The most entitled guy I met on a dating site. This took place between 2004 to 2005. My sister convinced me to make an online dating account, thinking no harm. The worst part was my mom decided to play around with my profile as I went to the bathroom. Yeah, dumbest thing I know. During setup, she put some of what she thought I was or should be into. So yeah, she told me entered, saved, and we waited for a few days. There were a few hits and a few misses. Most of the people hitting my profile kind of just weren't my type. When I saw what was put on it, I lost it. My mother attempted to say I was into sports. I wasn't. She did some changes to my profile and claimed it would get me a date. I was upset because she didn't trust me to make my own darn decisions on a guy. About a week later, I got messaged by this one guy. I will call him Eric. He was kind of interesting, at least by his photograph. We talked for about a day or two and chose to meet up. He told me to pick the restaurant, which I did, and also since I was between classes, we could meet. We met in front of an Indian restaurant, which my parents were friends with the owner. Eric showed up and was starting to give me a bad feeling. He said he didn't like my choice and dragged me to an old Chicago. He paid. I guess I was fine, but I was annoyed I was eating a salad instead of a huge pizza. I had to tell him I was in Taekwondo and I needed to go light before class. You would think he would understand, but he said it wasn't a real sport and thought it was weird. I was a bit annoyed, but smiled and thought, okay, this is a one date. He will leave me alone after he finds we are not a match. Yeah, no. He decided to ask me about some plans for about a week later. I had a convention I was going to. When I told him my plans, he said nowhere on my profile did it say I was a nerd. I explained my mother helped me set up and deleted part of my hobbies. He just told me whatever, just to cancel my convention plans to go see a football game with him and his pals. Now I put my foot down and said no. He said since he put forth effort to meet, I owed him. I was seriously upset and left. He paid my bill, but he messaged me via email, which I forwarded to my mother, telling her what this guy did. He told me the game time and what he wanted me to get to prepare. I literally ignored him and I went to the convention. I had already booked a hotel room and had friends rooming with me. I did not tell them about any of this and just moved on. As soon as I got to the hotel, my mom called to say Eric was on his way to the hotel. She believed he was joining me for the weekend at the convention. Oh God, he showed up and looked really angry. He demanded I unbook my room, which he said was a waste of money, and demand a refund on my badge because we were going to a football game. One of my friends, I will call Scott, who was a peacekeeper and was on security for the convention, asked the guy to leave. Of course, the guy said I was his girlfriend and I had it.
I am not your girlfriend. You should have gotten the hint when I didn't reply to your demands to see the game. I hate football.
He got mad and told me that he would give me a bad review on my account. I just told him good, and Scott made me get on his laptop after the guy left to shut down my account. After the incident, I got an email from some guy named Paul who was Eric's friend and ride. He apologized for what happened and hoped I had a good convention because Eric ruined the football game for him and his wife.
We should have gone to your convention because you actually sounded like a way better person to hang out with than him.
So far, Eric was just an entitled jerk who just felt he had to boss me around. Have you ever met anyone from a dating site? If so, how did it go? Please let us know.
Dating sites always matched me up with Kevins and Chads, so eventually I just settled for Reddit boy over here.
Am I the jerk for refusing to take a DNA test to keep inheritance? I, 25 male, am having a clash of morals and obligations and would like an outside perspective. When I was 13, my parents passed, and I was raised by my paternal grandparents. It was the easiest choice since they lived in the same area when my parents were alive and visited them frequently. I am my grandparents' only grandchild, as the aunt, 43 female, is child-free, so when they passed on, they left me their house. The current total value of the house is around $500,000, and that's lowballing the estimate, and it's fully paid off, so I basically have a really good head start in life, although I could never imagine selling it. Recently, I was approached by a man, 38 male, John, claiming to be my grandfather's son and would like a DNA test to verify it. I was shocked and didn't believe him and told him to buzz off because that would mean that my grandfather cheated on my grandmother. He also contacted my aunt and she recognized him as the neighbor's kid who moved away years ago. Apparently, my grandparents were friends with his parents, but then one day there was a huge fight and the couple moved away. John stated that his mom had an affair with my grandfather, and when the husband found out, he divorced his mom and they were forced to sell their house. John said that his mom's husband wanted nothing to do with him since he wasn't sure if he was the father and abandoned him. Years later, John tracked him down and after a DNA test was confirmed that he wasn't the father. John's mom confessed that the only other possible candidate was my grandfather. John's mom insisted her ex was the father for years. My aunt lives in another country, so John has been asking me to do a DNA test so that he can finally know for sure who his grandfather is. I was willing to do it until my girlfriend, 26 female, brought up the issue of ownership of the house. I did a quick check, and if the DNA test proves that John is indeed my grandfather's son, he might be able to sue for a share of the estate. If it came down to it, I would be forced to sell my home because there's no way I could buy out even 1/3 of the share if John wanted it. I contacted John and said that I would be more than willing to do a DNA test, but only under the condition that he sign away any rights or claims to the house if he's proven to be my grandfather's son via paperwork that my lawyer will draw up. I didn't hear from John for days, but then got an angry call from a woman claiming to be his wife who called me greedy and selfish, that I couldn't possibly know that pain of not knowing who my father is and that my grandfather owes John. I hung up on her and contacted a lawyer. So far, unless John can present enough evidence to create doubt, he doesn't have much of a case, especially since the possible father is already passed. While I'm content with never giving John what he wants until he waives his rights, and my aunt won't either, his wife has begun stalking me on social media and putting me on blast. Am I the jerk? ETA, just in case this wasn't clear and to give more info. 1. My aunt is aware of everything and supports what I'm doing. 2. My grandparents' will was very clear once they both passed, I'd get the house. My aunt got their life insurance policy, we split the remainder of their savings, and sentimental items were to be given to the designated people. There was no mention of giving anything for a possible secret long-lost kid. 3. My grandparents were cremated, so John wouldn't be able to even request that my grandfather be tested, although my aunt and I haven't told him that. 4. I did initially block his wife, but she created other accounts. 5. I'm an American and I live in the USA. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you go ahead and get the DNA test or not? Please let us know.
Heck no. I'd tell John and his wife to buzz off.
That time a boss destroyed his own company. This is my dad's story, but he's not into Reddit. My dad is a hard worker. This happened about 15 years ago. Worked for a company that fixed and rented heavy equipment, backhoes, scissor lifts, steamrollers, forklifts, etc. His boss, the CEO of the company, whom he reported to directly, was a middle-aged Italian guy whose grasp of English was tenuous at best. He understood what people were saying, but had trouble communicating his own intentions back clearly. On the other hand, my dad had zero grasp of Italian, but spoke perfect English. However, he was a solid mechanic who would go on to make the machine bay of this company something approaching a Sherman production line a la 1943. Things got done. And even though he didn't always understand what the boss wanted him to do, he just focused on the reason he was hired. Manage the repair bay, hire new mechanics, train new hires, and off-site, on-call repairs. Well, boss guy gets in his head that my dad is going to replace him as the leader of the company because he's much better liked, speaks perfect English in an English-speaking country, and has basically all the department heads coming to him for help, even though he's technically only in charge of the repair bay. And so he calls my dad in, chews him out. We think it was mostly Italian, so my dad wasn't picking up on it, but the tone indicated as much, and manages to communicate that he's being fired for poor work performance. And my dad just smiles, shakes the guy's hand, and leaves. And thanks to his less than firm grasp on both the English language and business law, the boss guy just sent him on his way with his last paycheck and nothing else. So my dad started his own business in the heavy equipment mechanic market, and after telling all of his old work buddies about the situation, suddenly got a bunch of new hires, and his old workplace suddenly had a lot of vacancies that the boss had no idea how to fill because the guy he had hired to do that had just been fired. He went under about 6 months later. Sometimes my dad drives past where the old shop was on his way to a call. When he does, he just laughs and laughs. Edit. For anyone who's been saying this isn't malicious compliance, here's why I think it is. When my dad was brought into the office, he knew right away that he was getting fired, and he knew right away what the heck he was being fired for. Of course, the boss didn't say that the reason he was firing my dad was because he was feeling threatened by my dad's popularity and work ethic. Instead, he just blustered through my dad's poor work performance and fed him a line of BS about how he'd put up with it for a long time, but enough was enough. And my dad thought about taking him to court, but then, as he tells it, a bolt of lightning came down from on high, and he just reached out and shook his boss' hand. He knew that if he took the jerk to court, he might get money out of him, almost certainly he would have, but his boss would have had time to think about things and try to force a non-compete contract down his throat. By just resigning immediately, he knew his ex-boss would never even think of it until it was too late. And he double-timed it, putting in paperwork to get his new company off the ground before ex-boss could think of it. So maybe I didn't explain details and motivations clearly enough, but based on how my dad told the story, I think it definitely fits into malicious compliance. Am I the jerk for telling my friend my son is just as deserving as her son? My son and a friend's son both entered a lottery for a local charter high school that specializes in STEM. My son was granted entry. The friend was not. It's unfortunate, but also out of my control. It came up in conversation that my son had gained entry when I was visiting this friend. She asked that I transfer my son's spot to her son because she had become aware that I live in a good public school district. I explained that my son is extremely passionate about the areas the school specializes in, so would be attending. Never mind that what she was proposing probably isn't even allowed. She tried to assert that because her son would not have access to as good a school otherwise, that my son should free up the spot for someone more needy. Her son was in the room as this was being discussed. I didn't feel I could speak freely in the presence of a kid involved, so I suggested we continue talking in another room or at another time. She said this concerned her son, so he should be a part, and kept instigating him with questions like,
"Tell her how excited you would have been to go to that school. Don't you think you deserve this spot?"
He seemed uncomfortable at first, but obviously did feel strongly and passionately that he deserved to go, so warmed up to participating in the conversation. Finally, I wanted to end the back and forth and just told her, my son is just as deserving as your son. It was a random lottery. He's your responsibility, not mine. This isn't the only option for education you have. You knew admission wasn't a sure thing, and it was wrong to pin his hopes on it, and left. Now, looking back, I feel badly because I worry I should have removed myself rather than engage in front of her son. Two wrongs don't make a right, and just because she wasn't being the best adult doesn't give me an excuse to do what I did. But I do believe the things I said, and I'm not the one who put her son in the situation. So, I'm really broken up. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know. New manager wanted my dad gone. Oops. This is my old man's story from around 8 years ago. I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of this subreddit, so I thought I'd share. My dad, X, was a first-generation Asian immigrant with a PhD who had been working as a senior engineer for a shell refinery for almost 2 decades. Dad didn't socialize much with his other coworkers, partially because he had a 2-hour round-trip commute, and partially because he just didn't share many of the same cultural touchstones as them, being an immigrant. Still, he was highly respected by his coworkers because he was really good at his work. Being a math whiz, he even came up with his own, extremely complicated, resource allocation algorithm that generated significant efficiency improvements for their refinery. Let's call this X algorithm. You have to understand, this was a major multi-billion-dollar refinery, so he was now literally saving the refinery millions every year. If he was a more entrepreneurial sort, he probably would have negotiated and gotten either lifetime royalties or promoted into management track, but he was happy with just a rink-a-dink plaque, plus his X algorithm making his work much easier for him. He was at the company for 19 years. Over the course of these 19 years, most of his managers either retired or were promoted into senior management outside his orbit, but each time they'd tell the new replacement, hey, don't mess with X. He's a good dude and saves the company a ton of money. Dad didn't play the schmoozing game, so he stayed as a senior engineer and never made it into management track, but he was alright with that. Unfortunately, during the 19th year, there was a 3-month gap between the last manager leaving and the new manager arriving. This time, the message wasn't conveyed. The new manager was a nightmare. Unlike the previous supervisors my dad had, she was in her early to mid-20s, fresh out of college with just a bachelor's in management and zero engineering background. She was now supposed to manage a team of mostly PhDs with decades of experience in the field. To be fair, that probably wasn't easy for her either. She had the typical liberal arts college attitude of always knowing better than you. And heck, I say that as a liberal arts major. And there was immediately friction between her and my dad. She probably just wanted to demonstrate her authority being new, and my dad seemed like an easy target, being the old guy in the department who never hung out with anyone. It all came to a head one day when she very publicly called him out on some calculations she claimed he got wrong and offered rather smugly to teach him the math behind it. Oh heck no. Asians in particular tend to care a great deal about face and respect, especially for your elders. Here was this 20-something business management bachelor's with no experience trying to publicly embarrass him, an Asian man in his 60s, and say that she was going to teach him math. Yeah, no. My dad quite brusquely demonstrated that his calculations were in fact correct, and then started doing something I really wouldn't recommend. He seized every opportunity to publicly call her out and embarrass her when she got her stuff wrong, which was quite often. Things got bad. Real bad. The new manager wasn't going to take this lying down, so every week she tried to seize any excuse to write my dad up for purported mistakes and infractions. This went on for a full year. He had gotten an outstanding rating on every annual report since 1995. The new manager tried to give him a not adequate rating on the 2014 one and basically threatened to fire him, 1 year short of his 20-year retirement with pension, unless he wrote a self-critique and came up with a self-improvement plan. That was the absolute last straw. My old man had lived through the Cultural Revolution in China, which was all about stupid teens and college kids harassing their elders and making them write self-confessions and self-criticisms. He wasn't going to put up with this crap, so he said, forget it, and gave HR his 1 month's notice. You want me gone? I'm gone. Forget you and your pension. The first day, all was quiet. The next day, all heck broke loose. While none of us were there, This is how we imagine things went down. New manager. X has decided to quit instead of improve his performance. Senior manager.
Oh, okay. Wait, so who is going to run the X algorithm?
New manager. X algorithm? Senior manager.
Oh no.
Senior management basically realized that no one besides him even knew how it worked, much less would be able to maintain and operate it. He had created it all from scratch. Once Dad was gone, the algorithm would be gone with it, along with the millions in efficiency savings each year. The head of HR and a VP-level executive immediately scheduled a conference with him and the new supervisor, and the company caved all the way. Dad no longer had to report to the new manager. His annual report was changed to outstanding, and he's now reporting directly to the VP. His job also changed. His only responsibility for the next year, until his retirement date, was to spend a few months in training his replacement on the usage and maintenance of the algorithm. Once his replacement was fully trained, he had no other responsibilities. He could just sit at home and collect his paycheck until his retirement date came. I'd love to say that the new hire was punished for that year of crap, but that probably wasn't the case. I also wish that Pops would have demanded more for the future usage of the algorithm, but that year of constant fighting had banged him up mentally as well. Addendum 1. I absolutely agree that the old man could have handled it better as well. My mom and I told him as much at the time. It's almost never beneficial to be going to war with your boss, but he was just too old and ornery to put up with any levels of crap at all, especially from someone who objectively knew much less than him. Am I the jerk for locking any food I make in my room away from my family? I, 19 male, live with my parents and 3 brothers, 25, 22, and 17. And yeah, I pay rent, pay half of my utilities, and buy my own stuff. My parents were pretty big on that if we wanted to keep living there, that we had to pay for everything ourselves and help with the bills. With lockdown last year and being stuck at home, I started getting into cooking more and learning how to make new dishes. I bought some cookbooks for beginners and watched YouTube videos. It became like a hobby for me to cook new stuff. Also baking sometimes. My family just orders takeout, so no one really cooks. My dad started making fun of me being the lady of the house, because even my mom doesn't cook. Then my brothers started to tease sometimes too. I don't know why it was such a big deal. They got me a pink apron as a joke gift once. I work full-time, so sometimes I don't have the energy to make a whole dinner when I get home from work. So I started cooking weekends and making sure I had enough leftovers for the week. Guess who started eating whatever leftovers I left in the fridge? My dad. Sometimes my brothers, but mainly my dad, because I'd get home and he'd be there eating. It didn't bother him in the beginning, but what did is the fact that he was still making jokes about me, yet still eating the food that I was making. I told him he's a hypocrite for doing that, but he doesn't see it as anything because it's food for the family according to him. Last week, I made lemon garlic butter chicken thighs with green beans, and I was craving it like crazy at work. When I got home, it was gone. So that really got to me, and on the weekend, I bought myself a mini fridge with a lock to put in my room, and that's where I'm putting whatever dinner I make. Now my dad is getting all upset for overreacting to his jokes and being stingy with my food. I already told them I don't like the jokes they make and that they still think it's fine to eat my food. Like, I'm fine with making some for them, but not if they keep calling me names for it. That's why I'd rather just keep it from them then. They're still telling me I'm being too dramatic, and my mom agrees since they're only playing around with me. So now I don't know. Was it too much that I'm locking my food away in my room and not wanting them to have any? Am I the jerk for moving out without my husband and taking the couch with me? I, female 28, have a rough situation. I didn't get into college and my parents weren't supportive. I started working several retail jobs and obviously wasn't able to save money because of constant needs like medical needs, groceries, self-care, etc. We lost our apartment. We moved in with my husband's family. They have a 4-bedroom home. They had rules. No internet, no dogs were allowed. I miss my boys. No showering unless one a week. Every morning I wake up to the sound of my brother-in-law's kids yelling, trying to find their socks, books, or my sister-in-law arguing and begging her fiancé to not leave after they had another argument. Father-in-law yelling at the neighbor for God knows what. Brother-in-law yelling at the kids, or mother-in-law telling me to get ready to work around the house before leaving for work. They've taken over the couch I brought with me. The family would start welcoming me, saying, "Hey, come join us," on the couch. Then when I did, no one wanted to give me space to sit. I ended up sitting on the arm of the couch every time. Lately, my sister-in-law's fiancé sleeps on it after their nightly arguments. Every time I talk to my husband about getting our own place to rent, he'd first ask, "Why can't you get along with the others, silly?" Goes on about how family's needed in times like this to keep us cheered up and supported. Then says he'd save up half and I save up half for rent. But at the end of each month, he'd tell me he spent the money on groceries or other things since that's what he gives to his family in return. It was hopeless, because even if we were able to save up to pay rent for 1 month, I'm sure my husband won't be able to save money for next month's rent, and we'd be humiliated and kicked out. 2 weeks ago, I got back from work to find out that my husband used the money that we were going to pay for our apartment on a gaming chair. We had an argument, a huge one. I packed my stuff and left with my couch. I found a place to rent with a roommate. I've been here for 2 weeks. He texted me at night saying the chair was brother-in-law's idea and he returned it eventually. However, he and his family didn't appreciate me leaving like that. He argued that I was making it look like his family were bad folks and the couch shouldn't have been taken as well. He wanted me to come back so we could rent a place together next month. He meant June. I refused since I already paid. He's not accepting it, calling me mean and selfish for what I did. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know.
I hope you divorce this guy. Him and his family sound like a bunch of yahoos.
Karens are starting to realize some of the dynamics have changed. Last week, glorious night. Party of 6 comes in headed by a Karen. Wants 2 4-top, high-top tables pushed together. Host says can't do it. Social distancing. You'll be too close to the other table next to you now.
Let me speak to the manager.
She's calm, just insistent, and it's obvious she's played this card before. I roll up. How can I help?
Can we push these 2 tables together?
No, can't. Social distancing, and now you're too close to the next table. You can have that table that's for 6 in the corner. You can have that booth for 6 after we clean it, or you can have that table for 6 outside after they get up, about 10 minutes. All the while, I'm pointing to each table like I'm showing them emergency exits on an airplane.
You can't push those tables to—
No, we will not be moving tables. You can have, and I point to the tables again.
You know what I think?
She begins turning to her friend.
You know what I think?
Both of them together.
We go somewhere else.
At this point, I clap my hands together and say, "Thank you and have a great night," and immediately turn around and walk away. The best part is Karen stares at the back of my head for a solid 2 seconds before she shuffled out. I didn't realize this until I watched the video of the exchange. Easily made number 3 in my career highlight reel, but only one of the handful of Karen moments since we reopened. The Karens decided to leave the restaurant? Oh, that poor manager. Karen's sister demands I pay her medical bills. Alright, so for some background. I have 3 horses and I teach riding lessons for a living. I have a small acreage with 2 full-time barn employees whom I trust dearly. I trust them with the life and care of my horses, and both of them have never given me a reason to doubt them or their actions. My horses also love and trust them. My horses are well trained and have never kicked. The one who did, edit for clarity, the one who did kick my sister, the first ever kick. When I say the one who did kick, I'm talking about this kick, is a retired lessons horse and my personal riding horse. I don't let kids ride him anymore. My sister visits often, and we have a very good relationship. Or we did, until now. I'm getting 2 different versions of what happened from my barn employees and my sister, and I've decided not to pay her medical bill since I'm leaning towards my barn employees' story of events as it makes more sense. So, my barn employees tell me that my sister came to visit and I wasn't around. She came in and was chatting with them, and it was while my old retired mare was getting a bath. The employee said she told my sister multiple times to stop randomly reaching out for my mare's tail, and that she was repeatedly bothering / petting / talking to my mare from behind, and the horse was getting bothered, pinning her ears and overall getting restless. Evidently, my sister was told multiple times to back off to avoid getting hurt and didn't, and was subsequently kicked in the leg by my mare and has a bone bruise. $600 medical bill for my sister. My sister says the horse randomly kicked out as she walked by. The horse in question has never kicked before. Since the horse in question has never kicked, and I could only really see her kicking if repeatedly bothered, I feel torn about paying the bill and decided not to. I mean, if you harass a horse from behind, it's your own fault for getting kicked, right? Edit to add. I feel I should mention that another big tell for me is that the barn employee continues to be fine just bathing her, picking out her feet, braiding her tail, and isn't nervous to stand behind her. The employee continues to say there's no reason to be because the kick was brought on by pestering. I feel that if my horse had kicked unprompted, my employee wouldn't want to do her grooming anymore or stand behind her, but she does and has no indication that she's worried about being kicked. I'm not talking complicated legalities of whether I'm technically bound to pay the bill by law, etc. To be blunt, my sister and I wouldn't sue each other. She's just upset I don't want to pay the bill, and I want to know if I'm really being the jerk here. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Please let us know.
You know what they say, mess with the bull, you get the horns. Or in this case, hoof.
The time Karen thought an Army cadet worked at McDonald's. Some background. At the time of this incident, summer 2014, I was 14. I was a member of the Army Cadets here in the UK. I was traveling back from a weekend camp with a group of about 35 cadets and 6 adults. On this particular camp, I had completed a 48-hour fieldcraft exercise, including mock attacks, creating a camp, setting and defending from ambushes, and a 9-mile hike in full kit with Bergen and rifle. Out of the previous 72 hours, I had slept for maybe 3 and consumed so much caffeine, at one point I could hear my eyes moving. While on the coach home, my friend had doodled on my arm, so I had some quite intricate patterning visible on my hand when I rolled my sleeves down. After about 3 hours on the bus, we stopped at some services for food and a toilet break. Important note, I was dressed in my full cadet uniform, which was camouflage combats, and smock and shiny black boots, complete with rank slide and beret. Cast. We've got entitled Mom, the Karen. We've got me, a very tired cadet just wanting food. We've got Staff Sergeant, the most senior adult on the coach home, a large balding man with a very deep booming voice and a heart of gold. We've got W, the most senior cadet on the coach, a short, slim female who was the most aggressive person I've ever seen. The story. So there I was. The picture of an exhausted teenager stood with my friend in front of the pricing board for the McDonald's in the service station, trying to marshal my brain to do the math to work out how much what I wanted was going to cost, surrounded by people dressed in the same as me, in a similar state of exhaustion. I can vaguely hear someone complaining about
all those people
in the strident, petulant tones of a wild Karen, when all of a sudden the crowd parts like a shoal of fish in front of a roaming shark, leaving only me in the way. I feel a hand grab my shoulder and wrench me around then.
I want 2 Big Mac meals with chocolate shakes and a chicken nugget Happy Meal with milk.
Me. What? I realize that I'm stood in front of the prices and step to one side, mumbling an apology and going back to counting my money. The entitled mom grabs me again and this time shouts at me.
Are you stupid? I said I want 2 Big Mac meals with chocolate shakes and a chicken nugget Happy Meal with milk.
I stare at her blankly, then say, I'm not stupid. I don't work here. Entitled mom.
I don't care. Get me my food now.
At this point, I just kind of lose it. Miss, I don't know who the heck you think you're talking to, but don't you think it's a bit weird how the workers wear gray and I'm wearing camo? And you know, I've got drawings all over my arm. Or is your head so far gone you can't tell the difference? Now, I've had an exhausting weekend and I'm going to get my food. If you touch me again, I will defend myself. All the shouting had attracted the attention of W. W. Spooky Shadow Man, what's going on here? Me. I don't know, Sarn. I point to entitled mom. This woman just grabbed me and yelled at me, so I yelled back. I just want my food. W nodded, then gestured me towards the ordering counter. W. Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to step away from my cadets. W placed herself between me and entitled mom. Entitled mom now loses her mind and goes into a screaming fit, yelling about disrespect and duty. W, not to be outdone, begins shouting back about how entitled mom should respect the cadets. Enter Staff Sergeant, who shouted loud enough that I could feel it through the floor. Staff Sergeant.
Enough! Sergeant W, go order your food, now.
He wheeled to entitled mom, who was shocked into silence.
As for you, I suggest you wait elsewhere until we are all gone.
Entitled mom.
But I'm the victim.
I saw everything. Now leave.
Entitled mom scurries off, and that's the end of it. Staff Sergeant and W both checked if I was okay, then left me to my meal. Speaking of McDonald's, what's your favorite thing to get when you go there? Please let us know.
Ew, I hate McDonald's.
Just kidding, I'm making fun of the people who say that. Karen mother-in-law makes a rude announcement at my wedding. I, female 24, was married recently to my childhood sweetheart, male 24. Pretty small due to lockdown, but it was planned well in advance, so we didn't cancel, just kept it to family, and we planned to have a party with everyone else at a later date. For some background on my husband, his parents had him pretty young, 18 and 19 respectively, and he has a very close family. Our wedding reception was quite intimate, but we had the traditional speeches planned: father of the bride, best man, husband's brother, groom. It was only the day before that my mother-in-law asked if she could have the mic to say a few words when we sat down to eat, and we said that would be great, but that she would need to go before my husband. Stupidly, we figured she would talk about us at our wedding, so we never asked what she planned to say. Big mistake. She announced that she's expecting a baby. She's still pretty young and very healthy, but it was a huge shock that just completely took over all night. What's even worse for me is that I am also pregnant and we plan to announce it at the wedding, but I told my husband to just leave it out of his speech. Everything felt a bit sour for me after that, so after the wedding, I didn't speak to my mother-in-law for a few days, and I got a call from her sister, a guest, to ask what was up. I explained that I felt like the attention was taken away from us without our permission. I would have said no, but still. And it was so unfair to spring that on us. Apparently, I ruined my own wedding because I was obviously upset about the good news and that I was being totally selfish. Maybe I was, but it was my wedding day that was already ruined by lockdown. Husband is on my side, though clearly feels a bit uncomfortable telling his mom that, which I get, as I don't want to have this argument directly with a pregnant woman either. The rest of the family is split down the middle, my side and his, because it was such a close family event anyway, and we all need some happiness. Now I'm starting to wonder if I overreacted and spoilt everything. Am I the jerk? Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this response. I'm really feeling the love, and thank you for all of the congratulations. I just wanted to answer some of the recurring comments and questions for info. Firstly, my husband was planning to speak to his mother in a week or two, just not straight away. A few reasons for this. He's angry, and he didn't want to blow up at a woman who's still around that sensitive pregnancy stage. He wanted time to cool off. He wanted to give her a chance to reflect and apologize on her own. I respect this decision 100%. He is my rock, and I will not hear a word against him. Secondly, my mother-in-law is only 42. I've seen a few comments that are quite shaming about her age, which are making me quite uncomfortable. She wants to be a grandmother, and I think finding out would have made her really happy, but I didn't want to attach how I felt in that moment to the announcement of my little one. On a similar note, I didn't want to be thinking about this after my wedding either, which is partly why I blocked her out. Thirdly, my petty revenge self would love her to have a baby shower, but I really doubt it. They're not such a big thing in the UK, and despite how she seems, she's actually really good about the restrictions that could still be in place. Her birthday is in May though, so I'm not ruling anything out. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mother-in-law? Please let us know.
What's with people who want to make big announcements at other people's weddings? I just don't get it.
Am I the jerk for not following the rules of the neighborhood HOA? Neighbors in a homeowners association have issues that I don't follow the HOA rules, so the neighbors called me a jerk today. I bought a house 5 years ago that a real estate company built on speculation. Mine was the first house in a planned subdivision that they were going to build one house at a time, or as people bought the individual tracts of land. The area kind of hit a boom period, and the other surrounding houses went up quick. In my contract to purchase my home, there was no homeowners association, and because I was here first, I don't have to join any if the other neighbors decide to create. I'm grandfathered in, is what it says in my contract. They all seem to forget this though, and continually try to give me HOA fines for breaking the rules of the HOA. This has ranged from days I have things delivered to my home, Amazon deliveries on Sundays, to when I cut my grass, to me having vehicles parked in my yard, and they aren't happy I own an extra tract of land because I bought two to have a bigger yard, so I could build a shooting range. I live in the South, this is not that uncommon. The recent event though that led to them calling me a jerk is they came over to ask me to remove the eyesore in front of my garage. Now, my home faces the road, not anyone else's house, so they don't have to stare at my garage, but apparently they still don't like it. I run a small hobby business of doing woodworking projects, and I have a shelf outside my garage door full of various pieces of treated lumber that I may use one day. It's not the neatest and cleanest area, but it's not a disheveled mess either. So I told them if they lightened up and just left me alone about all the other stuff, I'd consider moving my woodpile if it bothered them so much. They proceeded to tell me that I needed to address all the HOA issues and take care of the woodpile, along with stopping any deliveries on Sundays and getting my other truck out of my yard. They handed me what basically amounts to a ticket, and I trashed it and told them to get the heck off my property. They called me a jerk for my unreasonable behavior and told me they'd be back. Edit. Thanks everyone for the feedback. I've been in contact with a real estate attorney about deed and whether or not they can still attempt to legally enforce anything. Also, I've contacted one on creating a cease and desist. I do have cameras on my property. Edit. The vehicle in the yard is just one, and it's not an abandoned wreck. It's a fairly new truck that I use mostly on weekends. It sits there so I can get my other vehicles out easier. I do move it when I mow, so it's not just sitting there beside my driveway. Well, what do you think? Should OP follow those HOA rules or not? Please let us know.
I'd double down on them and buy another truck. And bruh, what's wrong with Amazon delivering on Sundays?
Get cracking on an essay about arthritis? Sure, Mom. I was reminiscing after I made the poor nurse shudder after cracking my knuckles at my doctor's appointment. It reminded me of a funny story with my mom. My mom absolutely loathed whenever I cracked my knuckles around her. I can't help myself. It's a bad habit, and once I start, I have to do all of them. She would constantly yell for me to stop. She would tell me it's bad for me and that I'm gonna get arthritis from doing that. One day at home, I started making my fingers into Rice Krispie treats. Snap, crackle, pop. Mom had enough and snapped herself. I want you to write a 2-page essay about cracking your fingers, including about arthritis. No more than double-space, 12-point font and all of that. I don't want you trying anything funny. Well, of course I'm going to try something funny. We wouldn't be here if I didn't. So, cue that malicious compliance. I sat at the computer and pulled open Google and typed in how cracking your fingers does not cause arthritis. Turned out that was correct. I had plenty of sources, including one guy who cracked his knuckles regularly on one hand and not at all on the other. The other hand got arthritis, and the cracking hand did not. I included that. A few other truthful things, like it does cause a loss of grip, but ultimately it was about how it helped prevent arthritis in the long term. She took the essay without a word, skimmed it, and called it good to my surprise. Couldn't believe I got away with it. But I also remember that it got brought up in a conversation in my adult years before cancer claimed her. Mom, what did I tell you about cracking your knuckles? I had you write an essay on that and everything. Me, you didn't read that, did you? Mom, what makes you think that? Me, smiling like a fox in a henhouse. Because I wrote it on how it prevents arthritis. Mom, with surprised Pikachu face. No, you didn't. Me, cited sources and everything. Mom, you brat. Me, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I loved my mom. Don't waste our time with unnecessary calls? Okay, I won't bother quitting then. So when lockdown hit in early 2020, I was laid off. I immediately began searching for a new job, and it took months to find one. Application after application, I heard nothing back from job after job. Until I finally heard back from a major fast food company. You've definitely heard of them. It was just a brief message in Indeed. I responded to the message and heard nothing back. It was a minimum wage job, but I needed the cash, so I called the restaurant. I got an employee on the other line and told them I had heard from a hiring manager and wanted the job. The employee said they'd pass along the message to the boss. A week passed and I heard nothing back on Indeed, so I called again, and a fourth time. Each time the result was the same, a lower employee saying they had passed the message higher up. So I went in myself to talk to the boss. The boss said he had gotten my messages and was planning on calling me back. He pretty much chewed me out for calling so much and for coming in without being invited. He said, "Don't waste our time with unnecessary calls. We'll call you." Despite this, I got the job. 2 weeks had passed at this point, and in that 2 weeks, a family member had passed. I was called away to a small funeral. In the job interview, I let my new boss know I would be gone for a few days right after my training. He okayed this and told me it was fine. I got through the training and went to the funeral. When I got back and I called the restaurant to ask them when I was on the schedule next, I got a lower employee who said they would ask the boss. Oh no. So after a couple of days of waiting, I call again. Then I stopped calling and began searching for a new job. I never officially quit. I got my measly paycheck from them, and they have not called me back after 4 months of waiting. Good thing they ghosted me, because a couple of weeks after all of this, I hit the jackpot. I now have a from-home sales job. I make more than minimum wage, and on top of that, I make commission. Also, my new boss cares about me and returns my calls. Life is good. I'm glad I took that guy's advice. Had I wasted my time with waiting, I would have missed a good deal. Am I the jerk for wanting to be home while my roommate's ex-boyfriend gets his furniture? My roommate, female 24, dumped her boyfriend, male 30, of a year on Saturday. Currently on the lease for the house is me, female 24, my girlfriend, female 25, and my roommate. Her boyfriend moved in with us last summer but wasn't on the initial lease and did not want to be added to it when we renewed in March. We were all fine giving him as much time as he needed to get out because he's sad as all heck. But on Monday morning at about 3 a.m., he lost his crap on my roommate for saying she didn't see them getting back together in the future. I guess that part had not been clear to him up until that point. He immediately woke up everyone, screaming and calling her names, and we shouldn't live with someone like her while packing up all of his stuff. Not fun considering we all had work early in the morning and I live with pilots who kind of need to be well rested in order to function well at their job. Fast forward to today. He tells us he's coming by tomorrow morning to get the rest of the furniture and he doesn't want any of us home. That wouldn't be a problem because we all have work, but it just seems sketchy that he specifically wanted nobody home. I have a dog and a cat that was missing for 2 weeks because he left the sliding glass door open a few months ago that I really don't want getting out, not to mention all of my stuff. He didn't ever seem like the kind of guy who would be crazy and steal or destroy anything, but he's obviously extremely emotional and that affects your decision-making process. I messaged him asking if he could wait until 3 when my girlfriend is off of work so she could be there to watch the animals since he probably will have the door or garage open to get his furniture. He said he would be out before then and not to worry about the pets. I literally begged him over text to work with us and coordinate on any time when somebody could be there, and he's adamant about tomorrow morning. I just don't have a good feeling, and I brought up changing the locks tonight. My roommate thinks it's a good idea, but he's been really mean to her the past couple of days, and I think she probably just wants to be a jerk back. My girlfriend thinks we should just take the animals to a friend's tomorrow and let him do what he wants. Am I the jerk if I change the locks? I know that he'll be upset if he shows up and his key doesn't work, but if I warn him, I really think he'll just bring his toolkit and get into the house one way or another. Update. Thanks to everyone who told me I wasn't the jerk. I think that's true. We told him we were going to be kind and give him the courtesy of not seeing us. My friends Ryan and Paul are over at my house right now to let him in, and they know exactly what is and isn't his. We stayed up last night for the locksmith my landlord sent over. She was very understanding and wanted them changed ASAP and gathered a few small things he missed, some kitchen stuff and toiletries, and put them on one of his pieces of furniture and moved everything into the garage. He got there at about 8 a.m. and claimed not to have his key. Shocker. And they told him not to worry about it as all of the locks had been changed. We live in a single-family house, and there's a front door, back door, side door, garage entry point, and a door in the garage that goes into the laundry room, so the locksmith was there for a while. I think that is that, and I really hope everyone is happy with the solution one day because it gave me a heck of a headache. I just have to see an ID. You don't have to convince me you're telling the truth. I used to install cable and internet for the local cable company. The company has the same name as a college football team in Ohio with red as their school color. This is my last job of the day, and it's only a modem swap. I swap out their outdated modem for a new one, copy and paste their Wi-Fi name and password onto the new one, and that's it. The house is massive and in a really nice neighborhood. Get to the door, ring the bell, and the customer's son is there. Dude looks young, so I asked to see an ID to make sure he's 18 or older. Company policy, 90% of the time, I don't ask if the customer looks old enough. The son gets argumentative right away and starts telling me how he's in college. He's actually 21, and he even has his CCW. And I tell him the policy and that he just looks young, and I'm only covering my butt. This isn't good enough. He says hold on and calls his mom, who is the actual account holder, and on her way home. I see where he gets his attitude from when he puts his mom on speakerphone, and she tells me how she knows the owner of the company. She's only 5 minutes away, and that I'll be sorry if I leave before she gets there. She tells me she made that appointment and made sure someone would be there and that I should just do my job if I like having one. I just say, okay, I'll just get started. I head into the basement and notice that their existing modem also does phone. Their work order, on the other hand, says to replace it with an internet-only modem. So most people that still have a landline for phone only do so for their home security system. And when I remove the phone modem and put in a non-phone modem, you no longer have a security system. By the time mom gets home, I'm all finished and the son is already connected to the Wi-Fi. I apologize, have her sign the work order, and quickly drive off. Maybe 10 minutes later, dispatch calls me and tells me how the customer has a security system and that they were supposed to get a phone modem, and would I go back? Apparently, the customer security system was blaring and wouldn't shut off. I explained the situation and how the work order didn't say anything about a phone modem. She understands and says she will have another tech head over there when someone is free. I gave the tech a heads up and he didn't go over there until late evening. Never heard anything else about it. I never did anything wrong. I don't care that your mom is hurt. You need to get your priorities straight. So this happened about a year or so ago, but I was reminded about it earlier today while speaking to my old boss on Facebook. So here are the people involved. We've got me, of course. We've got Dan, my old boss, name changed, of course. And we've got Karen, his boss, again, name changed. I used to work as the residential manager of a house for people with special needs. I had previously worked in direct care and managed a house with a different agency, but moved to this new agency for a variety of different reasons. I've always worked in this field, I still do, and I consider it my calling. It's very difficult work managing the house, as not only do you have to remember everything about each of the residents, referred to as the guys, but you also have to set the staffing schedule. Now, according to Karen, I had been hired to fix this house up. For a bit of background on the house, it had only been open for about a year, and the guys had just met when they moved in, so they didn't know each other very well and were constantly making each other angry. Most staff members weren't sure how to work with them due to the lack of training and lack of understanding of their unique personalities, so they just kinda let the guys do whatever they wanted. Beyond that, there was no accountability. For example, there was a house credit card that was to be used for food and another to be used for items like soap and cleaners. There was no way to keep track of purchases because staff hadn't been trained on how to sign the cards in and out, how to store receipts, and what to do with the card logs. Needless to say, the house was a mess from a managerial standpoint when I got there, and they had gone through 6 managers in the 1 year they had been open. As soon as I took the position, I began learning everything I could about the guys, from parents, all documentation, and contacts with their previous staff, while training my staff on what I had learned. I also set concrete processes of documenting money spent, med administration, and training logs, because yes, Karen hadn't instituted any training logs, so there was no proof that training had even happened. All of this work helped the house a lot, and this set us up in a good place, but it came at the price of almost all of my free time. Between all of the work I put in setting up systems in the house and all of the forced overtime I had to work, I ended up working between 70 and 100 hours every week, without any overtime pay. Karen said that she would be there to step in if Dan and I needed something, but never once helped. This is important. Now, all of that was basically just to say that I put in work for that job. Here's where Karen comes in. I want to start by saying that Karen is beautiful, like really beautiful. So beautiful, in fact, that her boyfriend in corporate just had to give her a director's position as soon as they started dating. That's a different story though. Anyway, Karen had a habit of flirting and making it very obvious that she was doing so. She would drop things on the ground while speaking to me and then bend down slowly in front of me to pick it up. I never complained, but it did seem a bit unprofessional. At first, I thought that she was being overly friendly. Then I realized that she was hitting on me and using it to get me to do more work around the job. I'm used to that kind of thing happening in this field, but Karen is by far the worst offender. It kind of came to a head one day when she made a comment about bigger guys being her type. Being a bigger guy, I kind of picked up on it, and I made a comment about the girl I had just started dating at the time. She laughed it off and said that there was no title involved in my relationship, so she didn't care. But I said that I did. She backed off, but she was never really friendly with me again. Things started to go downhill once she realized that she couldn't control me like that, which was fine with me. Things were calm and the house was running smoothly, with normal hiccups, but fate likes to strike at the worst times. I got a call from my mom basically as soon as I got to work one day at like 8 a.m. saying that she had tripped over my ridiculously hyper dog and fell, and she was having a hard time breathing. I called Karen to tell her I was leaving, and then I rushed home. You'd think that someone would respond with empathy, but I was met with a cold,
"You'd better be back later today."
"Okay, whatever. She's probably having a bad morning." I take my mom to the walk-in orthopedic clinic about a half hour away, and after a 2-hour wait, they finally saw her and ordered x-rays. Problem is that they don't do x-rays on site, so we had to go to another orthopedic clinic to get them done in red. I called Karen on the way to the second clinic and filled her in. She told me that I had work to do and that I'd better get back as soon as I could. After another half-hour-long drive and another 2 hours waiting for the x-rays to be done, we sit and wait for them to call us back in to have them read. This is where it goes south. Karen calls me, and I run outside to take the call. Here's an approximation of the conversation. Karen:
"Where the heck are you?"
Me: "I'm at the doctor with my mom, waiting for x-rays to be..." Karen cuts me off.
"You said you would be quick."
Me: "I had no idea it would take this long.
Save it. You're probably just trying to get a free day off. You really have to get your priorities straight. You have no idea how lazy you look."
Me, yelling now: "So, I work 90-hour weeks and I'm lazy? I fix the mess you allowed to build up and can't take my mother to the doctor for an emergency without being yelled at?" Karen:
"Don't you?"
Me, cutting her off. "No, I think you're right. I have to prioritize. Consider this my 2-week notice."
"But I..."
Click. I was shaking, but it felt great. She wanted me to prioritize, so I did. The job was suddenly much less important to me. I then found out that my mom had cracked her sternum and bruised a rib. Less great. In speaking with Dan about the situation recently, I found out some fun things. My replacement has no idea what they're doing. They have no idea how to relate to the guys, and the staff doesn't respect them at all. My replacement's incompetence cost Dan his job. All of the work I had done to set up the systems for money management and medication administration was just tossed because replacement didn't want to keep up with it. So everything is back to the way it was before I got there. Half of the staff left, and the new staff have no idea what they're doing because there is, once again, no training for them. It's gratifying to know that the work I was doing was so necessary, but I do feel bad about the guys and think about them often. Edit. Thanks for all the comments, everyone. A lot of you are concerned about the guys and say I should report the situation. I've mentioned on a few comments that I reported everything when I first got to that job and that I'm going to report what I know now because it's just not right or legal. Thanks for all the kind words and support. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.